start with Corey doing the Colts, then
okay.
It'll go like
I assume the Titans would be second because the Jags and
I don't know. Craig
Texans
might
aren't really worth talking about.
Craig might pick. I don't know. Craig been mixing it up the past couple of weeks, man. He been mixing it up. I can't say that, Corey. He was like, he might pick the Texans. I don't know.
Maybe that's fair. I just know when I was going through the divisions, half of the 8 teams, I didn't do the full thing. I just did overall because there's some bad rosters.
It's some bad rosters. We all know. I won't say
someone's got to be at the top of the draft.
Atlanta's bad. Houston's bad. But anyway, we're gonna start with the.
We'll get there.
Yeah. All right, guys. Oh, shout out, man. It's 8/24. Shout out to my man Cole. Man, his birthday was yesterday. 8/23, and then he got 8/24. So awesome, man. Only player to have 2 days back to back. That's Kobe, huh? So that's 2 jerseys retired, and he deserves it. So shout out. So guys, we're gonna start out with the AFC South. We're gonna start off with Indianapolis Colts. We know Corey is a Colts fan. So
I got pretty excited when going through this because I am excited for this season. So I apologize if I am long-winded on Indianapolis, but it will be a very thorough breakdown of this roster.
Cool.
When it comes to coaching, you guys know I love me some Frank Reich. I am a massive fan of his aggressiveness as a head coach, his willingness to go for it on 4th down. Just when it comes to both attitude and trying to win a football game, and statistically, it makes sense and it gives your team a better chance to win. He's also a guy that's gotten the best out of his quarterbacks in Indianapolis. And I'll say any team that has a different starting quarterback in week 1 for 6 straight seasons, they're likely picking at the top of the draft every single year. So the fact that Frank Reich has been even anywhere close to the playoffs with all of that turnover at the most important position in football is really impressive, and I think says a lot for him. Offensively, I think they've improved at almost every level of the offense. Obviously, I think Matt Ryan is a huge upgrade at quarterback. From day one, it was pretty clear that his leadership in that locker room was a night and day difference to last season. And his teammates took notice very, very quickly. I think there should be a little more consistency out of Matt Ryan. And I think you'll have a situation where the head coach just trusts his quarterback a little bit more than last season. In the backfield, JT is still JT. I mean, he's going at the top of fantasy football drafts. And while I think he could actually end up seeing fewer touches this season than he did last, I think the offense overall will end up being more successful just because they won't need to rely on Taylor as much as they did last season. Naheem Hines is poised for a much bigger role this year, both coming out of the backfield as a receiver and lining up as a receiver in the offense to start. And I think adding Phillip Lindsay as their running back 3 provides some very quality depth. I've long been a fan of Phillip Lindsay. I love his running style. So having him as kind of an insurance guy and a guy that can spell your backs for a couple of snaps a game is some pretty valuable depth. Across the offensive line, they did lose 2 starters from last year. But honestly, I think Matt Pryor at left tackle, his floor is Eric Fisher from last year. And I think he exceeds that. Eric Fisher, I think, really struggled coming off the Achilles. I think Matt Pryor has the talent to play as good as Fisher did, but also better. I think it was a really, really solid pickup for the Colts last year, just before cutdowns. And I think he could provide some pretty quality play for them at the left tackle spot. And I think Danny Pinter just slides into the right tackle or right guard starting spots and replacing Mark Lewinsky, and they just don't miss a beat there, honestly. And I will also say, though, that it's pretty big that both Braden Smith and Quentin Nelson are healthy at this point in the season. Both of them dealt with injuries all of last season. They both didn't play up to their standards. So I think both of those guys being healthy to start out the season means that the offensive line as a whole should look better going into the year. At the receiving core, Michael Pittman looks fantastic in training camp right now. His rapport with Matt Ryan has been really good. And I think he shows out as a legit number one wide receiver in the NFL this season. Alec Pierce, the rookie from Cincinnati, has been really impressive in camp so far too. One thing that rookie receivers struggle with coming into the league is press coverage, especially because of spread offenses in college. They just don't see it a ton. The Colts threw Pierce into the deep end with putting Stephon Gilmore on him for a lot of training camp. And his ability to shake off of press as a rookie is really impressive. He spent a lot of time working with new wide receiver coach and future Hall of Famer Reggie Wayne, and the work has showed. And I think Pittman has also commented that Pierce is a lot further ahead as a rookie than he was. And I'll say I think the receiving depth should be better as well. Fingers crossed that Paris Campbell stays healthy. I know that's been said for 3 years now, going into year 4. But if he can stay on the field for most of the year, I think he adds an element to this offense that they've missed the last couple of seasons. He's flashed in camp, but the health just remains a question mark. And they've got some young guys in Ashton Doolin, Mike Strawn, Desmond Patman that are rounding out the roster that if any one of those guys can take a step forward and really produce for them, I think it can negate the need to bring in a vet like T.Y. Hilton. They also have Kiki Cutie that's potentially going to make the 53-man roster as a wide receiver 5. And I think he could provide some quality depth for them too. The only position that they're really potentially taking a step back for is tight end. Jack Doyle retiring was a really big loss. He wasn't the fastest, he wasn't the strongest, but he did everything, and he was just reliable. He was, every quarterback that had him, he was their favorite guy. So having to replace him with Mo Alley Cox, Mo's going to have to take a really big step forward in his progression. And it really hurts rookie Drew Ogletree, 6th round pick, tore his ACL last week, and he was having a very good camp. Mm-hmm. He had put himself ahead of Jelani Woods on the depth chart, was flashing daily. So it sucks to see him go down. But it adds some pressure on Kylan Branson and Jelani Woods to produce. But I think Frank Reich is a good enough offensive mind to be able to kind of coach around that with the younger guys in the tight end room. But everywhere else across the roster on that offense, I think they've taken a step forward. Defensively, I think the defense ends up being better than last year as well. Matt Eberflus was a good defensive coordinator. He took the defense from being pretty awful when Frank Reich came in to being a solid unit. But I think they hit their ceiling with Matt Eberflus. For me, he was a guy that just always seemed a bit slow to adjust when he needed to. I think Gus Bradley's system is pretty simple, much like Eberflus's was, but I think Bradley is more willing to change things up as needed. The players have seemed to gravitate towards Bradley. Everybody loves him. And I think a fresh voice in the defensive coaching staff as DC will be a much needed change. Possibly the biggest addition to this defense was the trade for Yannick Ngakoue. DeForest Buckner is an all-pro defensive tackle. Grover Stewart has been a solid guy in the middle, but Buckner in his time in Indianapolis has never had a consistent edge rush, and Yannick Ngakoue provides that. Looking at Ngakoue's numbers, it's kind of insane seeing the fact that he has bounced around the league the way he has the last 3 years. It makes no sense to me. Seeing how Ngakoue has warmed to Indianapolis off the field as well, and some of the stuff he's doing, it makes no sense how he hasn't found a home yet. But I really hope he has a long-term home in Indianapolis. Kwity Paye had a solid rookie campaign, and he's going to need to take a jump on the opposite side of Ngakoue. But I think he also benefits from having a legitimate edge rusher to kind of take some pressure off of his shoulders. Their defensive line depth is a bit young, so they're banking pretty hard on youth, but I think the depth can come around by the end of the season and provide some quality snaps for them. I think their linebacking core is one of the best in the NFL between Shaq Leonard and Bobby Okereke. Yes, Leonard is coming off of back surgery still. I don't think he's going to be ready to go week 1. But Franklin's filled in pretty well for him in camp so far. So I think Franklin will be able to provide, good enough play until Shaquille Leonard is healthy. And
that's Darius Leonard, guys.
Yes.
Just say his correct real name.
Yeah, in the offseason, Leonard came out and said that he was always Shaquille Leonard as a kid. Mm-hmm. In college, they just started calling him Darius because it's his actual first name. He just never corrected anyone. So I guess he's figured after like 3-4 all-pro teams, he can finally correct people on his name. But for the secondary in Indianapolis, I do think losing Rock Ya-Sin does hurt a little bit. Well, it sucks more so than hurts. Rock struggled his first 2 years, but I think he really turned a corner last year. He played some really consistent football for them, and I think it'll be a solid pickup for the Raiders. But the Colts replaced him with Stephon Gilmore, so it's really hard to say that they're losing anything there because Stephon Gilmore has looked really good in camp so far. I don't think he's the type of guy that's going to put up like the defensive player of the year season, but he's going to, I think, be really good for them. You still got Kenny Moore on the opposite side. And I think Isaiah Rodgers has speed. He's been a good special teams guy for him, but when he sees the field as a cornerback, he just finds the football. And I mean, that's all you ask for as a corner. So I think they've got some concerns at the depth at cornerback behind Rodgers and Faison, but hopefully they don't have to rely on that depth. And safeties, Julian Blackmon is coming off an Achilles injury. I don't say this lightly, but the guy was flying around like Bob Sanders last year before he got hurt. He was a really impressive safety for him. He's looked healthy coming off that Achilles, which is surprising because he injured it in October of last year. But he also, coming out of his last year at college, was coming off a knee injury and came back quickly from that too. So he just, maybe one of those guys that can get healthy quick. And opposite him, they brought in Rodney McLeod, the veteran from this area, actually, to potentially start. But rookie Nick Cross out of Maryland has just flashed consistently in training camp. And I think Cross is going to win the starting job day one. And I think he could end up being a steal from the 3rd round in this draft. Overall, again, I'll say I think the Colts just got better at basically every position on the roster this offseason. I think Matt Ryan brings a chance for consistency at the quarterback position that they haven't had for some time. Yeah, I know he's 37 now. But he says physically he feels very good. He's taking care of his body, and he says that he's more likely to play 6 years than he would be to play 1 more year. I think that Rigoberto Sanchez tearing his Achilles yesterday or 2 days ago is going to hurt. You don't talk about punters often, but when you have a guy like Sanchez that was phenomenal at pinning teams inside the 20 and not getting touchbacks, it's a weapon, and losing that is definitely going to hurt the special teams unit because on top of that, he's also their holder. And, as long as he's been a holder, they've never had to worry about a bad snap for that. So, that sucks. But I think on the whole, this roster is better. Objective one for this team is going to be win the South. They haven't done it for a while. And it starts with getting 2 losing streaks taken care of right off the bat. They haven't won in week 1 since they beat the Oakland Raiders and quarterback Terrell Pryor. And
how long ago was that?
I think it was 2013. It's been a long time since they won a week 1 football game.
Wow. And
they're going to Houston week 1. Got to win that game. They go to Jacksonville week 2, where they haven't won in 6 years and was the infamous debacle last game of the season last year.
And it's in Jacksonville.
Yep, in Jacksonville.
Yep.
You have to win that game to set the tone. especially because you get the Chiefs, the Titans, and the Broncos your next 3 games. But I think if they can get off to a solid start, they've got the best roster in the division. I think they can make the playoffs, host a playoff game, and come playoff time, I think they could be poised to make a bit of a run. I have them at 12-5, and I think they win the AFC South.
Whoa, 12-5. All right. Craig, the Colts.
It's hard to follow that up, but Frank Wright, he's one of the better coaches in the NFL to me. He's had some really good veteran quarterbacks. Phillip Rivers, Andrew Luck. Now he gets Matt. Even Carson Wentz. But I think he's going to do this is pretty much like I would say his best chance to win his NFC South or the AFC South. Everything going on around him, with everything going on with the Titans and the other 2 teams in the division, like this is pretty much his best shot. So I think this is the year that he finally gets it done. So Matt Ryan, I've seen him for years, and he's always been a really good quarterback, a really solid quarterback. The last couple of years, at least, he hasn't really had the talent around him to do anything. Like his stats last year, they weren't good. He wasn't very mobile either, but I think going to Indianapolis could be like a rejuvenation type of year for him. So something different is he gets to go and be with a better team that's going to put him in position to basically have a playoff run, something that he wasn't going to get in Atlanta going forward. So I think the sky's the limit for him in Indianapolis. Like Corey said, he could stay he said he wanted to play another 6 years, possibly. So we'll see. Even though he's up there in age, you see obviously Aaron Rodgers and you see Tom Brady, they're still throwing the ball great at their in their, well, Aaron Rodgers is late 30s and Tom Brady's 45. So and I think going from a dome to a dome is going to help him out as well. So he doesn't really, and then he plays the Texans, who are in the dome. Jacksonville's in Florida, so it's not cold there. I guess the only thing he has to worry about, kind of like he was in the NFC South, where the only cold team he had to play pretty much was Carolina. And Carolina's close to Tennessee. So, the weather should be kind of similar, so he should be used to that, basically. So I see a really good year for Matt Ryan, who I've been obviously getting in fantasy late as my backup. But, I think he's going to have a really good year. The running backs, Jonathan Taylor had an amazing season last year. I kind of expect something similar. I think his touches probably will go down, but I think he's probably he can still produce at the same rate for the most part, in my mind. I don't think he's going to have a big drop off. I think he's not going to probably have the same yardage that he had last year, or maybe even the same touchdowns. But I think he's definitely worthy of at least a number 1, possibly number 2 spot in fantasy. And I think he's going to have a really good year for the Colts this year again. Hines is a really good pass catching back. I think he's going to work well with this offensive unit. I think he's going to fit in well with the passing game. I expect between like a guy like him to a guy like J.D. McKissick, a guy that can come in and just catch the ball out of the backfield and make plays. I like that for Nyheim Hines. I think I've been getting, well, at least in fantasy, I've been getting him as well. So I think he's going to be pivotal, for this team going forward. Michael Pittman, I think has top 10 talent. He's only 24, so he still has a ways to go as far as his playing career. But he has top 10 potential, and I just think he needed a really good wide receiver on the side of him, like a really good number 2. I think maybe Alec Pierce could be that number 2. Now with T.Y. gone, and no clue what's going to happen with Campbell. Still waiting for him to emerge and step up into that number 2 spot. But I think if he doesn't do it, then I think Pierce is more than capable of stepping up into that spot. And I think Pittman, with Pittman having Matt Ryan, I think it's going to be like Matt Ryan to Julio Jones type of chemistry or connection there, or Calvin Ridley type thing going on there. So I think Matt Ryan with Pittman is going to work very, very well. Mo Ali Cox in the tight end spot. I think he's a solid tight end. Probably not going to look for him to do too much out there as far as pass catching the ball, but I think he could be a reliable pass catcher, reliable safety net for Matt Ryan. The offensive line is one of the best. They got to be like top 5 offensive lines, definitely top 10 at worst offensive lines in the league. I know they lost Fisher. He had a down year last year compared to what he was doing prior. But I think obviously with Quentin Nelson, one of the better guards in the league, you have Ryan Kelly. He's a really good center. This Matt Pryor, left tackle. So this offensive line should be poised again to making holes for Jonathan Taylor and protecting Matt Ryan, which is key. The defensive line, and like this is another top unit. I think Kwity Paye, he's coming off his rookie year. It's going to be a second season. Forrest Buckner, goes without saying, like he's amazing. And Ndakwe, is that how you say his last name? He was the Raiders last year. Now he's with the Colts. They traded the cornerback Rock Ya-Sin for him. He was involved in the trade basically. So, but that defensive line gets beefed up. So the defensive line should be a lot more improved than it was last year. And I thought it was really good last year. So they're not taking any steps back there. It's like they're kind of going all in this year, and rightfully so, because the division is easily theirs. Unless injuries happen or whatever it is, but their linebackers, Leonard, to me, he's the best linebacker in the NFL. How you say it? Bobby, what's his name? How you say his name?
Bobby Okereke.
Okereke.
I think he's a really good linebacker as well. He's definitely poised to have a really good year again. Franklin, I think with at least until Leonard comes back, I think he's going to step in and be that other really good linebacker that they need, providing leadership. So I don't really see, even with Leonard out, I don't really see too much of a drop off there. But with Leonard out, obviously they're not the same. But it's only a matter of time before he comes back and is the same player that he was a few years ago. The secondary, Kenny Moore on one side, Stephon Gilmore on the other side. You lose Rock Ya-Sin, but you get Stephon Gilmore, who, I wish he had stayed in Carolina, but it is what it is. He didn't play much last year, but he was impactful for the time that he was on the field. I guess the only thing hurting him, is age, but he's only 31, but he's still playing like he's in his 20s. So I expect big things out of those two guys as well as the safeties. Cross, Corey mentioned that he's leapfrog Roddy McLeod. Mm-hmm. Is that how you say his name?
Yep. He
leapfrogged him so far in practice and in preseason and things like that. So as a rookie 3rd round pick, you can't ask much more out of one of your draft picks to come in and step up and surpass a veteran. So, I I've been liking the Colts for the last couple of years. I think I picked them the last like 2 or 3 years, and they just haven't. But I got to pick them again because I don't believe in any other 3 teams. So I think the Colts, I have them at 11-6. I think the worst they'll go is 10-7 if everybody's healthy. So I have them 11-6, and I have them winning the AFC South.
All right, Mo.
We keep this short. Y'all gave great breakdowns. I think they're gonna be motivated. I truly see a team that's gonna be motivated. That last year gave a bad taste in their mouth. You bring in a Matt Ryan who's going to be motivated because people think he done. It's a very talented defense. Always love their defense. Like huge fan of their defense. I just love watching like Coach game and just watching their defense. I just be sitting there like, wow. Like, brother's a beast. Solid defense. Honestly, because of Tennessee's losses at wide receiver, I think I can see Coach running away with this division because it's like you're not going to if you become one-dimensional, you're not going to beat the coach. Like, you're not going to beat the coach with Derrick Henry, then he's going to run the ball 25 times a game. That's just not going to work. Not against the coach. So I think with them wide receivers taking a downgrade like it has, the coach not going to let Gus Bradley ain't going to let a rookie beat him. He ain't going to let no what his name, Burks or whatever, Alex Burks beat you. That's not going to happen. So I can see Coach easily winning at the highest. I can see him 11, 12 wins, at the worst 10. I'd be kind of disappointed in anything under 10 wins. I think the only way that happens is like massive injuries. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We were talking about this earlier, and I kind of see them running away with the division easily. But we're gonna break down quarterback, like Corey. Let's go to head coach. I like Frank Wright. He's been pretty solid for them. Actually, he's been to the playoff twice in 4 years. Some could say he should have went last year. So it was last year. I think he's a good coach. I think he fits Indy's culture. That's it. He's just one of those guys that, as we saw last year on Hard Knocks, he gets a lot of respect and is a great leader. Matt Ryan is another one that's really awesome. Veteran pickup. Colts love veteran quarterbacks, and they seem to luck out. I don't even call it luck. They're a well-oiled run franchise, so that's what most times what franchises do. They even though Andrew Luck retired, they're still able to get quality.
Luck is a touchy word for quarterbacks, James.
Yeah. Luck is
especially on the anniversary today of his retirement.
Oh man, yeah. So even after Luck, they've continuously gotten veteran quarterbacks, and go to the playoffs. And Matt Ryan is saying that he want to play 6 more years. It's possible. That's 43. It's very doable. And I could see him fit in with the Colts. That, like Corey said, I guess he's the Colts insider, but I've heard multiple reports say it's like night and day. It's a big difference between him and Carson Wentz. And that matters, especially coming from your quarterback. Your quarterback sets the tone for your team. So, it's a difference because on the other side, Carson Wentz is struggling right now, and Matt Ryan is not. It's the difference, right? So, Jonathan Taylor, once again, great running back. Even though he's going to probably take less carries this year, they still have Nyheim Hines, and they still have Philip Lindsay, which is like third string, but I think he's still a quality running back. And Nyheim Hines, I think, is like Craig said it, the J.D. McKissick role. I think he's going to play really good, and he's been a phenomenal pass catcher since he's been in the NFL. Receiving core, Michael Pittman has been balling out this camp. Especially, I was reading the training camp notes against the Lions. He won all his one-on-ones on 11 versus 11, and I think 7 versus 7. But he's been playing really good. And that's what you kind of expect of him. Everybody sees the potential, and I think this year he's ready to make the next step, especially with Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan is, I think Corey and Craig said it, where he's one of those quarterbacks that's going to get him the ball consistently. So, and Alex Pierce is turning some heads in camp. So it looks like, he's another example, just like, I'm going to get to him later, Nick Cross, where this isn't, luck this is a quality franchise that's able to do their jobs and get the right players that fit. And Alex Pierce fits them. The tight end position, I was reading that Drew Ogletree did have a torn ACL. And it says it's going to be 9 months, which they have been a little bit light in the tight end area. So I know that Grayson and Jelani Woods are going to have to step up, but hopefully Mo Alley Cox can stay healthy. But And their offensive line is good. Once again, held down. Ryan Kelly, Quentin Nelson, Pitcher. We saw these guys, man. We know how they work, man. So, uh, the defensive line is phenomenal. I love Grover Stewart, man. Great barbecuer. DeForest Buckner is, he's an all-pro, probably make the all-pro this year. The way he's trending, it might be a Hall of Famer at this point. He's on that track because I believe there's like 3 all-pros already out. He's on that track. I don't see him slowing down. And they got their 2 ends are going to be very good. So their defense took a step forward, especially in the pass rushing department, where you have in Yahweh and then you have Kwity Paye. So I think Kwity Paye takes the next jump. As we all see from young pass rushers, they kind of get their groove going, and then by the end of the year, you see the potential. And I feel like he's going to make that turn, and him and Yahweh on the edge is just going to be phenomenal. And then you have the linebackers that's going to hold it down. Shaquille Leonard, aka Darius Leonard. He's a phenomenal middle linebacker. Okereke. Okereke. And Franklin would like to hold it down. And then here's their corners. I know they lost Rocky Sin, but Stephen Gilmore, once again, and then the drafting of Julian Blackman, if he comes back and he looks like he's on track to play week 1, and then you have Nick Cross, this is just one of those, once again, man, a good run organization. And I feel like they're going to win the division this year. And I can see him winning. I can see him going 11-6 or 12-5. But it's not going to be like how last year where it's the Titans and the Colts. I just think the Colts are going to establish themselves as the number 1 division leader this year. Craig, what team you got? Let's see which one he picks.
We'll do the Titans.
All right. He didn't veer off. All right.
I'm going to just stick with the Titans.
I know who I'm going to get. It's all good.
Head coach Mike Vrabel. He's a really good regular season coach. When he gets to the playoffs, it doesn't happen for him. Last year, he had some injuries with the team, some big injuries. So that kind of set them back a little bit, but they still went 12-5, which, I didn't think they were going to go 12-5. So hats off to him for getting that record. But I just think that this year they've taken a step back, not a lot of steps backwards, but they've taken a few steps back, and the Colts have taken a lot of steps forward. That's the only thing this for this season. So I think Mike Vrabel is a really good coach. But this could be his toughest season, and we'll see what happens. Ryan Tannehill is a guy I've never really been high on. He's a middle of the road quarterback. I don't think he has much upside left. I think that's why they drafted Willis when they did. I just think they see something in him, and I know he's having a decent or really good preseason or whatever. I don't really care, but I just think he's going to be the starter there. Eventually, it might happen this year, it might happen next year, but I think the writing's on the wall for Ryan Tannehill. I think he's a middle of the road quarterback. He can play, but he's not a franchise type of quarterback there. So, unless Ryan Tannehill goes out this year and balls out and has like 35 touchdowns and like 8 picks or something like that, a really good touchdown to interception ratio, I just don't see it. Obviously the running back Derrick Henry, he was hurt last year, but when he's healthy, he's if not the best running back, he's top 2, top 3 as far as just pure running backs. He has gotten a lot of carries over his career, which is probably weighing on him. He's only 28 years old, but even last year he had before he got hurt, he still had 937 yards, almost 1,000 yards in the limited amount of time that he played. So with 10 touchdowns. So I expect big things from him again. Now he doesn't have the guy who replaced him for a little while in that backfield, and Foreman. But I think, and I don't think they can really lean on him every single down this year. I think they're going to have to spell him out a little bit more than what they've have been doing over the last couple of years. I know Rabel's like a really run centric type of guy, coach. Which is fine, but I mean, you're gonna have to have somebody else that can spell out Derrick Henry, at least to trying to save him over the course of the season, maybe into the playoffs, and definitely for years to come. So that's definitely a must. I think the wide receivers have definitely taken a step backwards. Julio Jones, I wasn't really high on. He was injury prone anyway, and he's just getting up there in age. But AJ Brown, a really young, promising wide receiver. He's one of the most talented wide receivers in the league, and they traded him on draft night. So you got a young rookie in return, so you kind of set that clock back as far as the contract goes, and Traylon Burks. So maybe he can come in and step up and be that next AJ Brown. Maybe Robert Woods, who's still coming off an injury. He hasn't participated in full practice yet. I think he's done a little bit of 7-on-7s from what I've been reading. But Robert Woods, he could be a number one wide receiver. He just never, I don't think he's ever been a number one wide receiver. So this could be a time for him to step up when he does get healthy and try to come back and be that number one guy again. It's going to be difficult for him, I think, coming off this injury. So, but he can do it. I think he has the talent to be the number one guy. Austin Hooper hasn't been a really good tight end, or at least a decent tight end, since Atlanta. The last couple of years in Cleveland, I don't know if it was the offense or if it was Baker Mayfield or whatever you want to do, whatever you want to call it, but it just wasn't clicking for him. So hopefully he'll go here, and Ryan Tannehill can use him. But Ryan Tannehill, he didn't use his tight end last year, so we'll see what happens here with this tight end, because I think Austin Hooper's he's underutilized, basically, in my opinion. Yeah, offensive line has been horrible. I think, in my opinion, I think they're a top 20, maybe 25 unit. Taylor Lewan, I think he's coming off of, he had an injury back in 2020, and he hasn't been the same since. So if he can come back and bounce back and be that left tackle that he was before he got injured in 2020, I think the offensive line could be elevated. On the defensive side, though, you have Jeffrey Simmons, Harold Landry, Zach Cunningham, Bud Dupree. Like, these are all household name guys running in that 3-4. So I expect that at least the front seven to be the anchor of this defense, basically. I don't really have any low expectations for this defense. These are all really, really good guys. I really do like Jeffrey Simmons. I thought he should have been a Pro Bowler last year, right off the bat, but it is what it is. Harold Landry re-signed, so he's there for the long term, or at least for the next couple of years, 3 years, I believe. So, and I like Bud Dupree and Zach Cunningham. I think they're really good players. Caleb Farley, still waiting for him to emerge as that corner that they drafted in the first round. Last year? He didn't play a lot, so, but they knew that drafting him, so they took a chance on him, and now I guess they're pretty much waiting for his sophomore year for him to come out and show what he can do. But the rest of the guys, Hooker and Kevin Byard, I think are solid as well. As far as the whole dynamic of the team go, I think that the team goes as far as Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry can carry them. Even though I said I wouldn't lean on Derrick Henry on pretty much every carry, he's still the best player on this whole offensive unit. So, if not the whole team. So they're going to have to rely on him. And Ryan Tannehill, he doesn't have AJ Brown anymore. So that's going to be something he's going to have to get used to. And maybe when Robert Woods comes back and they can get Burks going, they'll have a solid group that he can rely on, even though they're not a real pass heavy team. But I know they went 12-5  5 last year. I know they went 12 and 5 last year. I expect a decent drop off. I'm going 9 and 8. I don't think they make the playoffs, but I think they're in that contention. I think they're in that group that can contend. Maybe a couple plays here and there, they go to 10-7. But I got them 9-8.
All right, Mo, Tennessee Titans.
Well, it's gonna be rough this year. Of course, Derrick Henry, bell cow, Tannehill. I think he's gonna be under a microscope this year. Everything he does, they're gonna say, well, they're gonna old Tannehill again. Some people might call for Malik Willis to go back in early. I can see them putting in a package for Malik Willis, like a Trey Lance type of thing where he's gonna play this year. Maybe not start unless Tannehill's hurt, but we're gonna see him a lot this year. Wide receiver core is rough. I think a lot of teams, I know what I would do, but if I'm a lot of teams, I'm playing one high and I'm putting everybody in the box. I'm playing press. And I'm like, hey, if I'm gonna lose to Burks and a hurt what's the receiver name again? Woods.
Yep.
If I'm gonna lose to that, then I'm gonna be lost. I'm just gonna be a lost person. Tight end, offensive line, they lost like what, one or two of them. They lost a couple of them lost in free agency, right? They didn't resign. I think their best guard, I think, left in free agency.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be a downgrade. You can't keep giving Henry the ball 30 times a game. He got beat up last year, came back off the foot injury, and I think he didn't really look the part in the playoff game. So I think he struggled in the playoff game. Defensive wise, they're always going to make plays. Mike Vrabel's always going to have them prepared. They're not going to lay down. They're always going to fly around the ball and make plays. Honestly, if you don't win this division, you're not getting it. I don't see two teams coming out of this division. I got Colts winning the division, so I see them maybe like Craig said, 9-8, or 9-8, maybe 9-8, maybe 10-7. They're lucky to play here and there, but I don't see them making the playoffs.
Man, all right, y'all might be very different than me. So yeah, different, man. So let's start off with the head coach. I like Mike Vrabel. I think it's a solid head coach, but I do agree this is going to be his biggest test. I think he's lost some offensive pieces. I think the defense is going to be great, but this is the point as we're starting to see the offensive shift to the offensive side of the ball. That's where you need to be really good at, especially the receivers. We're going to get to that later. So the move that they made in the draft might have come back to affect them, and I think it will in a big way. Okay, so all right, so Ryan Tannehill is Ryan Tannehill. I think that he's an average quarterback. I don't even know if I want to say average, because I consider Kirk Cousins an average quarterback, and I think Kirk Cousins is better than him. That's just me. So okay, he's an average quarterback, but he's, if Kirk Cousins is 15th, he's in that 16th, 17th range. That's just me. I think that he's good in spots, but he's lost a lot of weapons this year, and unfortunately, which was beknownst to him, it's probably a huge surprise to everybody. They traded AJ Brown, who was his number one target, which made no sense. I think he's going to get affected by it. Boom, running back, Derrick Henry, one of the best in the NFL, man. But he had a lot of carries, and the numbers don't lie. The running back has over a certain amount of carries. I believe it's 400. The next year, you see a drop off, and Henry got hurt. Even though he held like he was number 1 and 2 in rushing for like majority of the season, but he still got hurt. So this is going to be, I think it's going to be a bounce back year for him. You don't want to lean on them, but they don't have anything else. They're gonna have to lean on him. And if he gets hurt again, it's gonna be like, oof, you know. The receivers, Traylon Burks, I haven't really heard anything phenomenal out of training camp from him. I keep reading article after article, and there's no standout. Like, oh man, you know who stands out? The slot receiver, Kyle Phillips. But like Traylon Burks, he's just not standing out. Like you hear the rookie. Let's see what rookie receivers have been doing good. I've heard Olave, Drake London, but I just haven't heard Traylon Burks. Maybe I didn't read the article correctly, but I read a couple. He just didn't stand out, which is a problem. Robert Woods is hurt. And then the tight end, you got Austin Hooper, he's a good tight end. But once again, they let Jonnu Smith walk away in free agency. It's gonna be tough. The offensive line, I think that they've been shuffling it at camp, and it's not as good as everybody thinks it is. And I think they're trying to figure it out, and that's not good when you have Derrick Henry as your only offensive weapon and a below-average quarterback in Tannehill. You need to have a strong offensive line, and they don't. So the defense is good. That's what we're gonna count on. Jeffrey Simmons hold it down in the middle. The linebackers are good with Zach Cunningham, Harold Landry, and Bud Dupree coming off the edge. They're stellar. I do want to see Caleb. He had injury concerns in college and then got hurt ASAP. So let's see if he can put together a full season. It's already tough for a corner. Already, man, corners is probably the hardest position on defense to play because you're kind of on an island by yourself. So you gotta deal with. We joke all we want, but like an NFL receiver is hard to check. So, and then they have one of the best free safeties in Kevin Byard. So I think their defense is good. So here's my overall prediction. I think they've lost too many pieces over the years, and they've lost two valuable offensive coordinators, right? The LaFleur, and then I just had his name. Arthur, the head coach of the Falcons. So they lost two of the. What'd you say, Craig?
Arthur Smith?
Yes, Arthur Smith. Right? They've lost Jonnu Smith. They traded away A.J. Brown. Right? Because they didn't want to pay him, but it seems like they had the money. But they traded away A.J. Brown. Now they're struggling. The receivers are struggling in camp. Their offensive line is struggling in camp. And Derrick Henry's coming off an injury with Ryan Tannehill. No. I have them going. I think they're going to take a huge step back this year. They won a lot of games by Derrick Henry. They won games by the sole Derrick Henry. And then you had to respect Julio Jones and A.J. Brown outside. You had to. Right? They don't have that this year. I got the Tennessee Titans going 7-10. Maybe lower, man.
Hey, James, just to make your point, yeah, you right. The division can be wrapped up real early because they play the Colts twice within the first 6 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
So
Why did the NFL do that again?
Huh?
Why did the NFL do that again? They did the same thing last year. By the time October was over, they had played their 2 games. They're the only 2 teams that can win the South. Like,
they should put them. They should put them at the end.
Yeah, they play October 2nd and then play again October 23rd.
Yeah. All right, Corey, the Titans.
All right. For the Titans, I think I'm a little lower on Vrabel than everyone else myself. I think he's a solid coach. I think he did kind of turn things around in Tennessee from when he took over, but I feel like the attitude he has instilled in that team is that of the fake tough guy, the guy that's ready to go start something, but as soon as he starts something is looking for people to throw in between him and the guy he started stuff with.
Oh man,
it's just that it feels like the players do some childish stuff, kind of what last year, the year before, like before the Ravens game, stomping on the logo. So they chirp a lot during the games, and I think they occasionally they'll take a cheap shot. But it is what it is. Offensively, I think Tennessee is set themselves up to be more reliant on Derrick Henry than they have at any point in the last 3 years. And I think that is very dangerous to do with a 28-year-old running back who missed a good chunk of last season with an injury, who after, I know we had been talking the last 2 seasons, his usage was unsustainable. I think that his just being a physical freak allowed him to survive longer than the average NFL player would, but it wasn't sustainable. And how does he bounce back from that? We'll see. But I don't understand how the hell does the Titans, a team that's needed to find some sort of other running back option for 3 years now, not the year after Derrick Henry goes down, bring in a legit number 2 running back to help your backfield.
They could have got Philip Lindsay.
Yes, Philip Lindsay signed with the Colts to be at best the number 3 running back.
Could have fit perfect there.
Absolutely, a similar play style, hard-nosed runner like Derrick Henry. He would have been a perfect complement for the Titans, and they didn't go get him. And Philip Lindsay was around for a while because that's how the Colts got him. I do not understand their lack of desire. I mean, Deontay Foreman played a couple of good games for them last year. How is he not back?
I don't understand.
What are you doing there? But honestly, speaking of questionable roster decisions, they traded AJ Brown. Why? On the field, he was your number 1 wide receiver. Depending on how Derrick Henry looks at this stage in his career, he may have been your best offensive player this season on your roster. And they shipped him off for some dumb reason. Personally, I also wonder, what message is that GM sending to his locker room? Because you have a guy in AJ Brown who fell in the draft. The Titans were able to get a steal in the second round with him. Massively outperformed his rookie contract, was a dominant player for your offense, and you ship him off instead of paying him. And I do think that it is a bit of a disparity between how the Titans have operated and Chris Ballard and the Colts. Chris Ballard got dogged by fans and media alike for not paying big money in free agency when they had cap space. But instead, when the guys he's drafted have come up for new contracts, he's rewarded his guys with new contracts and he's kept them around. And the locker room notices that stuff. So when you have a guy that has earned a payday and you ship him off instead of paying him, I think it says a bad message to that locker room, and it could potentially cause you some problems down the line as well. They brought in Robert Woods, and I think Robert Woods would have been a great number 2 piece opposite AJ Brown. Julio didn't really do much for you last year. He spent much of the year hurt. Essentially every concern that you had about Julio Jones going into the season, he lived up to. But Robert Woods, I think, is a really, really good number 2 wide receiver. He's a good blocker, which is great for a team that runs the football, and he would take some pressure off of AJ Brown. Instead, they traded AJ Brown, and they're asking Woods to take over the number 2 or the number 1 role coming off an ACL injury, and that's asking a lot. And I don't like their depth behind Robert Woods. I said Burks had a really slow start to camp. Even like mini camps and stuff coming out of the draft, there were a lot of question marks about his conditioning. He's not really stood out or anything. A number of rookie wide receivers have stood out in camp. Guys like Chris Olave, Alec Pierce, and Burks is just there. They were betting big that Burks was going to be the next AJ Brown, and he's not living up to it. And I think that could be a big detriment to them because there's just not much depth behind them beyond that. I think they're in a situation where, they've brought in Austin Hooper as tight end, and they're essentially going to need Austin Hooper to do more at the position that he's really produced in his career. So you hope he can have a career year, but that's asking a lot.
Yeah.
They have Ryan Tannehill. Whether or not that's a good thing is a toss-up. Yes, Tannehill kind of stabilized the quarterback position because Mariota is very inconsistent. He gave them more consistent play, actually put them into a place where they could be a contender, working off the play action from Derrick Henry. But Ryan Tannehill has a ceiling. He has hit it with the Titans. I think Tennessee needed to be aggressive to try and replace Ryan Tannehill with somebody that could actually help them take that next step. Instead, they downgraded at the weapons around him. I think the offensive line's a little worse than it was last year. And while Malik Willis is interesting for the future of the Titans, and I think is a worthwhile gamble for them, I don't think it does anything for them this year outside of, as I think Mo said, maybe a couple of plays a game as a change of pace quarterback. Defensively, I will say Jeffrey Simmons and Kevin Byard are legit. They are really good football players.
Yeah.
They've got some other solid pieces, but I think they're relying heavily on Caleb Farley to stay healthy. And as you pointed out, James, he had issues staying healthy in Virginia. That was a big knock on him coming out of the draft. It's why he started to fall a bit, and then he couldn't stay healthy his rookie year. I hope for him that he's able to stay on the field, stay healthy, and be productive. But it's a big gamble for that secondary. I think they spent big money on Bud Dupree. They spent a pretty big money keeping Harold Landry. I think they kind of overspent on both of those guys a little bit for the level of production that they're getting in return. Personally, I think the defense outperformed last year what many people expected. We'll see if they can repeat that performance, and I'm just not sold that they can, especially because I think the offense isn't going to be quite as good. I don't think they're going to stay on the field and keep the defense as fresh as they did last year. I think the offensive struggles could have a compounding effect on the defense. Overall, I just think that their roster on a whole got worse. And in an AFC that is absolutely stacked, and a conference on the whole got better. Their division rival in Indianapolis got better. I think that they're in a position that the AFC South is only putting in one playoff team. I think their window to make a legit run may have been last season, but then Derrick Henry got hurt, and that closed the window. I think Indy's ahead of them talent-wise. I will say when picking games, I still had them at 10 wins. But looking at their roster on a whole for this breakdown, without Derrick Henry going and putting up a LaDainian Tomlinson, Adrian Peterson level MVP caliber season, I just don't see them getting to that win level. It wouldn't surprise me if they finish with fewer than 10 wins this year. I'm not sure what direction the franchise is heading after this offseason.
Yeah, man, they were tripping. They could have signed AJ Brown back too.
Yeah, the deal that Philly gave him was essentially the same deal that all of the wide receivers in that draft class got, and all of those receivers deserved.
All of DK, Terry McLaurin, AJ, they all got the same deal. I don't know why they.
Yeah, you knew it was coming. Pay him.
Yeah, because if they brought AJ Brown back, and they could have probably still got Robert Woods. Now we're talking about all right, Colts.
Yes, AJ Brown on this roster makes that offense very different.
Yeah,
because I think Hooper gives you more than they got from their tight end position last year.
Yep.
I think Robert Woods would give you significantly more than Julio Jones gave you opposite of AJ Brown.
Yep.
And if you could potentially, Derrick Henry is a giant question mark, I think, just because of the health and the wear and tear and the usage. But you wouldn't have to rely on Henry as much if you had AJ Brown.
Yeah. Well, that's crazy. So what we have? Let's see. Mo, you got who you want? You want to do Jacksonville or Houston?
I do Jacksonville.
I knew it. Okay.
Start with the head coach. I think Doug Peterson, any upgrade would have been an upgrade over the coach they just hired. I mean, they had. So let's just say that. But Doug Peterson, good record, good track record of doing good things, producing good quarterbacks, helping to train quarterbacks. I can see Trevor Lawrence taking a step up this year. It was hard for him last year, but I think he's definitely going to take a progression. I think he's going to definitely have a better year than he had last year. Of course, if he goes down, then they ain't got nothing behind him. But running back wise, I like James Robinson. I like ETN. I think ETN's going to have a better year. I got him on my fantasy as a second, third back. Christian Kirk. I see the market for wide receivers. I think he got paid a little bit more. The production didn't match what he got paid, but that's here nor there. That was just the market. Hey, you can't blame a dude for cashing out and cashing in on the market. Marvin Jones, they got the dude Chenault. I think I said it right. Chenault. He was solid last year. You got Jay Jones. They brought in Ingram, who I think is going to be motivated, because for the Giants to just give you up like that and not even really try to give you a contract offer, like pretty much just said, now you haven't been productive. I think he's going to be motivated. Offensive line wise, it's pretty solid. They went in, they got Jawan Taylor. I like Jawan Taylor. I think he came out of Florida a couple years ago. They brought in Sheriff. Everybody knows how I feel about Sheriff. I hated to lose Sheriff. Cam Robinson. So it's a pretty solid offensive line, pretty solid offense. I think they're going to be fun to watch. I think they're definitely going to put up some points. Defensive wise, looking at them, you got some solid pieces, man. Josh Allen came along. I think he had double-digit sacks last year. If he didn't have double digits, I think he was close. I think he was about 9.5 or close to 10.
Maybe.
I like Devin Lloyd. I love Devin Lloyd coming out of Utah. A solid player. He's going to hit you. Solid dude, really smart. Trayvon Walker was questionable, but hey, if they like it, I love it. If they fit what they wanted to do. You got Griffin at one of the corner spots. The corner's still kind of questionable to me, but the front seven is definitely solid. The front is definitely solid. I think they're definitely going to look better, but also at the same time, looking at their schedule, just being real honest here, looking at their schedule, I'm looking at they definitely starting 0-4. Like I can see 0-4 start right here. You talk about they start with Washington, Colts, Chargers, and the Eagles as their first 4 weeks. Like I can see them starting because I hate to say it, if we lose Jacksonville first game, I'm about to start my Ron Bird. I'm very on the hot seat. Like, yeah, go ahead and sit down. You want a hot seat now?
Fire round. Look at it. Go 5 rounds.
I said hot seat. I didn't say fire him yet, but it's that seat will definitely start to get warm. We'll start to get a little toasty.
You are vicious, Mo. Good.
Yeah, but I could. Jacksonville's schedule, looking down, strolling down, is brutal, man. It's really brutal. Like, it's brutal. I can see 4 wins. I can see 4, maybe 5. No, this schedule is really brutal. Like, I'm struggling down here, and I'm like strolling down their whole schedule because they play our whole division, then they play the whole AFC West. You know what I'm saying? So, and then you got to go through your own division. Then you got to play the whole NFC East and the whole AFC West. I just don't. I'm gonna see maybe 4 or 5 wins. I can see them at least getting high selling. I give them 5.
Well, AFC, West, yeah, the NFC East.
Outside the Giants, though, I can see them losing all 3 of the teams outside the Giants, though. I mean, I can't see them beating Philly or Dallas or us. I can see them beating the Giants. That's one of the wins I'm giving them.
Yeah, and they might beat Tennessee or they might beat Houston. I don't know. But the head coach, Doug Peterson, His first year. He did good in Philly, so I don't really have a grade on him. I'm just gonna be honest. It's a hell of a lot better than Urban Meyer. That's just a fact. They're saying it's run like Trevor Lawrence. We know what he is. Well, we don't know what he is yet, but we know what he can be. And it sucks that they wasted 1 year. They wasted one of his years already. But it was his rookie year, that's okay. So he kind of gets a restart. Speaking of Trevor Lawrence, I think he's gonna do better this year. I think he's gonna make some major steps. He's gonna have a second year. They're saying that Doug Peterson offense fits Trevor Lawrence like a glove, and I kind of expected that. So I think he's gonna have a better year than last year. Now that listen, last year, to be honest, man, it was bad. You know, you had a college coach going to college parties and kicking the kicker and talking disrespectful, and they said he held his composure, so that's the great thing. So he gets to actually see how an NFL franchise is run by a head coach. Travis Etienne, I do expect him to have a good year. James Robinson is eager and he's ready to play. He's coming off that ACL. It's me, but guys are coming back from ACL quicker. Maybe it's just me, but I'm thinking like, oh man, you gotta maybe it might just depend on the program and the person. So, but James Robinson said he's ready to come back week 1, which is great news for them. The more offensive weapons, the better, especially in a running game. That's I feel like that's a rookie's best friend. For the receivers, you got Marvin Jones Jr., who I think is gonna have a good year because he'll be able to function well underneath his head coach than last year. Christian Kirk, we're gonna see if he's worth the money he got paid. See if he fits in this offense. And they're saying that Zay Jones is having a phenomenal camp. So look out for him. And then they got Evan Ingram as a tight end. So Trevor Lawrence has some weapons, and looks like the organization is trying to build around him. Speaking of building around him, that offensive line is good. They got Cam Robinson, the left tackle. They got Brendan Sheriff coming as the right guard. They got Juwan Taylor. Pretty good. That's what you're gonna need for a rookie: a running game, protect him, and some weapons on the outside. And then a coach that's offensive that can kind of fit his style, that he meshes with and communicates well. The defense, the defense is I don't know. People are saying that they're gonna have a good defense, but let's see. Let's see if they can make a name for themselves and really stand out. I do like Josh Allen. He only had 7.5 sacks last year, so he should be able to get more sacks. And I do like Devin Lloyd from Utah, who they traded up to get. He's been hurt in training camp, but he's plays one of those positions. No position is easy in the NFL, but I think that linebacker is one of those positions where it's like running back. Either you have it or you don't, or you're gonna know early. So it doesn't matter if he missed. It matters if he missed training camp, but I think he'll be okay. And as far as the corners, Shaquille Griffin, I don't know. Hopefully, he's going to be able to hold it down. He was a decent corner in Seattle, so let's see if he can do the same thing in Jacksonville. Overall, like Mo said, the first 4 games is pretty bad. But I do see them being a better team they were last year. A better team does equate to more wins. So I don't think they're going to have the number 1 overall pick. But, I can see them finishing 5, and 12. Which to me is a big jump. Okay, Corey.
All right. When it comes to the Jaguars, I'll be brief. As you pointed out, James, Urban Meyer being gone is a massive step forward for the franchise and for Trevor Lawrence himself. They wasted his rookie year, which I would say is a huge detriment to him because poor play during your rookie year is fine if you're learning and you're getting better. I don't think that happened. I don't think Trevor Lawrence got much better throughout the course of the season. And that could be a really big deal. They spent a boatload of money in the offseason on guys like Ingram and Christian Kirk, but I don't know that they have a ton to show for all that money that they spent. Brandon Sheriff was money well spent, but beyond that, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing with former first-round pick K'Lavon Chasen, and they'd also better be right on Walker at 1, especially with some of the guys that went after him. But for me, the only thing that matters for this franchise is the development of Trevor Lawrence. You brought in a guy like Doug Peterson to make that happen. He's a quarterback guy, former quarterback himself. For Trevor Lawrence's sake, hopefully it works out for him. I do think that, as you mentioned, James, the team will be more competitive this year. It was just a cavalcade of mockery with Urban Meyer. They'll be in more games. They'll look better on the field. But I agree. I don't know how many wins that actually translates to. If they go 3-14, but look better, I think that's a win all around for their season.
Goodness. All right, Craig.
I'm not gonna be long either. Doug Peterson is a good coach. He hasn't coached in a while, but I think, like everybody said, everybody is a better coach than Urban Meyer. So he should definitely come in and rejuvenate this franchise, at least from that standpoint. Trevor Lawrence, he had from a number 1 generational talent, best quarterback in a long time type of pressure that he had on him. 12 touchdowns and 17 picks. It wasn't it. Now he's in a terrible situation, but the only saving grace to me was his best game of the season came at the end of the year when they beat the Colts. It was besides the first game of the season where he had 3 touchdowns, this is the only other game where he had multiple touchdowns. But he had his best QBR, he had his best passer rating, his best completion percentage. So maybe from the end of that game to this season, it's going to carry over, and he's going to have he's got to have a better season than what he had last year. I don't think it can get worse than that. Travis Etienne and Robinson are there as well. So he has 2 young running backs that he can rely on. The wide receivers, I don't know. Christian Kirk got overpaid. Marvin Jones, he's been in the league for a while, but he's just, it is what it is. Zay Jones, none of these guys are true number 1s. At best, Christian Kirk can be a number 2. DJ Chark, who I thought was good when he was there, he got hurt last year. I thought he could have been maybe ascending to possibly a number 1, although I think he's probably a number 2, but he's not there anymore. So they're going to have to rely on somebody to make some plays for Trevor Lawrence. I don't think the team around, or I don't think the management around him did him any justice, or by going out and getting anybody of note. The guys that they got, I don't believe in them. The offensive line, I don't think is that good outside of Sheriff. So I think they're a below average offensive line, in my opinion. The defense is what it is. There's not going to be a good defense again. I do like Josh Allen. I thought he had a bigger impact than total sacks that he had last year, especially when he played the Bills. Josh Allen on Josh Allen. So I thought that was pretty much his best game of the season. But overall, I don't believe in this defense. It's like I don't believe in the offense. But this is pretty much a a developmental year for Trevor Lawrence. Like you want your top player, or at least your top talented player, I guess you want to say, especially on the offensive side, to come out and produce and have a better season than he had last year. And I'm hoping that he can put last year behind him. Maybe it was the coach, maybe it was pressure, whatever you want to say. But I think this year could be has to be a better year than it was last year. So I think the Jaguars are still not a good team. Just look at the schedule. Like you said, the first 4, but I'm looking at their first 11. Like 9 of their first 11 games are going to be brutal. So I only really see 2 wins in there, and that's the Texans and the Giants. So I have them going 4-13.
Okay.
Maybe it'll be closer games in there than it was last year. They did surprise the Bills last year in a field goal type of game, but I just don't see a lot of wins. So 4-13.
All right. So I got Houston Texans. This is probably going to be pretty quick. New head coach, Lovie Smith. I like Lovie, but he's the first time, not a first time head coach, but this is his first year as Houston head coach. So no evaluation on that, which is fair because he hasn't did anything yet. Quarterback, Davis Mills. He's had a good camp, but we got to see how it translates onto the field. I did like what I saw last year. I'm not gonna lie, I did. From Davis Mills, he was everybody was talking about him out of Stanford, and he lived up to it. He was a quality pick. Running back, Marlon Mack. They say he's completely healthy. They say he's been balling at camp. Him and Damian Pierce. So I think they got 2 really good, solid running backs. Wide receivers, Brandon Cooks, who's solid every year. And they got Philip Dorsett. And they got Chris Conley, but I mean that doesn't really stand out. But to me, Brandon Cooks is the number 1, and he's solid, man. I'm not gonna lie, he puts up good yards every year. The tight end, they got Brevin Jordan. He's okay. It's okay, tight end, I guess. Not really much to say. Their offensive line are pretty good. Not really. Contempt will be good. I'm trying to be optimistic here, guys. Okay. I'm trying to be positive and give these guys. Titus Howard just came back from injury, which it's not good, especially in camp. You want to be healthy, especially when the offensive line looks this new and you're young. Defense, they got to make some names for themselves because defense is bad, but that was Lovie Smith is good on that side of the ball, so we'll see. Jerry Hughes is definitely a name that sticks out. He can produce some sacks, but Christian Kirksey, who name stood out last year, I think is good, and they had the top 3 pick last year, I believe, because Derek Stingley Jr. has been balling in camp. He's been healthy. He looks good, which is no surprise because he comes from LSU, and LSU puts out some quality corners and safety. So, but overall, that was really quick. This roster is just, they just need a lot of growth, and hopefully Lovie Smith, hopefully he's not a lame duck coach, because he had one last year, and it's like, I mean, again, so hopefully they give Lovie Smith some time with this roster, and hopefully they're gonna have the draft picks. So hopefully, they develop, but I just don't see them being a good team. And this year is just for once again evaluation. I don't think they're in the running for the top pick. I don't think they're looking for a quarterback, but they're a lot of pieces away from being a good franchise. So I think they're gonna have another bad year. Go 3-14. Okay, Corey Houston.
Look, as with the Texans, I will be brief. Good luck, Lovie Smith. I will say we all questioned the David Collins hiring as head coach last year. And then he proved everyone wrong. He did a solid job with a really bad roster in a really tough situation.
They fired him.
You had a fiasco with the Deshaun Watson situation of him being there, but not being able to be suspended and claiming he wants out and all of that. And the team was often competitive. And that's what you can ask for in a down year. But then they fired him. So who knows what's going on? Good luck to Lovey. I do think the Texans had a decent draft. I like what they did, Stingley and so on. I just don't think they have an all-around great roster. Personally, just as a Colts fan, I really hope Marlon Mack can bounce back from his Achilles injury and produce. He was a really fun guy to watch for the Colts, underrated pick for them. But it does also sound like he may have already been passed on the depth chart by Dameon Pierce. But I think he'll still get an opportunity to see the field. So I'm really hoping that he can produce. But honestly, the only thing at all that matters for the Houston Texans this season is figuring out what they have in Davis Mills. He flashed last year at times. He's got the arm talents. He was a really talented, really highly recruited quarterback coming out of high school. He spent time injured in college and then had the COVID season. And so he just hasn't seen the field much. The Texans are going to be competing to be towards the top of the draft next year. They're going to have a high pick. So they really need to find out if Davis Mills can be the guy, or if they get a chance to get one of the top quarterbacks, do they need to take him? I think 3-13 would be a solid season for them as long as they do show some sort of progression. But it's the records are relevant. You need to find out if Davis Mills can be your quarterback.
Okay. All right. Great.
Whatever, man. Sorry. They moved. I didn't know they moved the draft. Okay, so Lovie Smith. Lovie Smith. He hasn't been in the league to be a head coach since 2014, 2015. When he was with the Bucks. So he's been out of the game for a while. Then he went to Illinois as a coach there. Then he came back and was an assistant, I believe, with the Texans. But I just think he's too old to be out there. And why is he taking his job? Like, what is the reasoning to take this job when this team is going nowhere? Like, your coach, I just didn't think he had the patience at his age to be coaching a team that's in rebuild mode, and then like going to be in rebuild mode for a while. So I don't really think he's going to be the coach there for a while. Maybe just transitioning somebody else on the staff to step up and be that next head coach. But Davis Mills, he had an okay season last year. I don't really believe in him. But I mean, maybe the Texans do, and that's all that really matters. But there's always they got a lot of picks back for the trade with Deshaun Watson, so maybe they can turn something if they don't believe Davis Mills is the guy going forward. They can produce. They can get a couple of picks together, maybe get a quarterback out of it coming up this year, especially if they're in the top 2, top 3, or maybe even top 5. There's still some other quarterbacks outside the top 2 quarterbacks coming out this year. So I think this is Davis Mills' time to really grow and really come into his own this season. Marlon Mack, I think I've been kind of high on him coming out, at least for fantasy wise. But he's getting pushed by Dameon Pierce. So I don't know where they stand on the depth chart. Corey said Pierce has passed them. So I mean, who knows? But even still, I think that's still a good 1-2 combination. If Marlon Mack is 100% healthy, which looks like he probably is right now. So I'm kind of high on Marlon Mack coming out this year. Brandon Cooks is just getting his talent is just getting wasted in Houston. It's kind of sad. It's sad because he was in LA with the Rams, and he was with the Patriots,
The Saints too, right?
Saints too. So now he's with like 3 really good franchises who've all won Super Bowls in the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years. And now he's with the Texans. And it's just like, this team is going nowhere. It's like he can't get out of there fast enough for me. But he's the only guy on that whole offense that's reliable. And if he goes down, I mean, I don't even know. Like, this team is just in limbo at this point. But Larry Tunsil is the only guy that, to me, that stands out on the offensive line. The defensive side is really nobody there. I mean, I could just, I'm not even going to do it. I don't even care. So I don't really have high expectations for this team. I think they're going to be competing for that top 3, top 5, somewhere between that top 3 and top 5 range in terms of this upcoming draft. I got them at 3-14. Yeah, that's top 3. 3-14.
Mm-hmm. Mo, I think the last one doing the Texans.
Man, wish Lovey well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to understand reasoning, like Craig said, about taking this job. I don't know if they gave him extra money on the table and said, okay, we want you to bring Marty when the coaching staff, the other head coach. If they maybe, told him something, maybe they give him stock, maybe they give him some ownership after this, because he about to be stressed. This is bad. This roster is just terrible from the ground up. Davis Mills had some flashes. Like you said, I like Marlon Mack. I like Cooks, but defensively, outside of Stingley, you got a bunch of no names and people who need to prove themselves who've been bouncing around teams. Like best defensive lineman right now is Collins, who was bouncing around Dallas. Is that the same Collins that's been down that was out of Dallas? Malik Collins, he was D-line at Dallas, right?
Yeah.
I think looking at their roster, I think that's their best D lineman right now. They're most consistent or most, played D lineman. I think it's another one, that we said is inconsistent. But other than that, this roster is hurtful. And it's like they're going to battle with the Bears for the worst record in this league. Like, honestly, I think them and the Bears are going to battle out for the worst record in the NFL this year. Like, I see the Lions having more wins than both of them. Like, so I see it almost being a battle between them two for worst record in the NFL. Them and the Bears, because the Bears are going to be terrible. Well, the Bears are going to be terrible. But I say 3-14. Maybe a fourth one. They catch somebody sleeping, catch somebody on like a bye week or catch somebody sleeping off guard, thinking they smelling themselves. Maybe they catch a team that had like a 7-game win streak or something like that, and they just smell themselves, and maybe they, catch them on an off day or something like that. But yeah, I see 4 wins at the highest, but I can see 3 or less. I can honestly not even be shocked if I see 3 or less.
All right, guys. Now we're doing the NFC South. All right, and you know who we're gonna start with, Craig.
I mean,
Carolina Panthers, man. And then we're gonna go.
You know how you feel about the head coach?
Yeah, let's go Craig, then Mo, and me and Corey. Yeah.
I'm really not even gonna be long on this because it's not even really
what. All right.
It's not much to talk about here. Okay, start off with the coach. I think he's trash. I don't think he should. His contract is way too much. He's on a hot seat. This is another reason why not all coaches that come from college, but a lot of these coaches that he wasn't even that good in college. That's why he's the head coach of this team. There's so many other head coaches that should have gotten an opportunity before Matt Rule got an opportunity. But I mean, this is what happens when you get rid of, to me, a much better coach and Ron Rivera, and then you bring in Matt Rule, and then he gets rid of Brady. Like, I don't know. McAdoo's going to have a really tough time with this guy, especially if they butt heads about something. I just don't see. I don't know. But I mean, what's McAdoo there for at this point? Because I don't. If Rule goes, does McAdoo go at this point? I don't know. It's possible he could bump up to the head coach. I don't care. This team's terrible. I am happy that Baker Mayfield is a starting quarterback. Beat out Sam Darnold. I just think he's going to bring in some type of extra life, some type of extra spunk, some type of energy that wasn't there last year, that hasn't been there before he got there coming into this season. I like Baker. I wasn't really high on him as much, but considering the fact that they had Sam Darnold, Cam Newton's first Panthers run, Cam Newton, PJ Walker, like just hasn't been good quarterback play. So I'm all in for Sam Darnold this year. I'm hoping that he can lead the team into at least, if not victories, then some type of steps in the positive direction. Because I don't even know if this is going to be his last year there. I know he said when he got there that he was when he wanted to stay, but that could just be lip service at this point, saying all the right things, which is, in a guy who's, I guess, got a second chance. Basically, you kind of want to say all the right things when you get to a new place. So who knows what's going to happen at the end of this year, whether he balls out or not. Like, this could be his last year in Carolina, and then Carolina's looking for another quarterback all over again. Or they could go into next year with Matt Corral, who's not going to be there at all this year. He's out for the season. So, it is what it is, man. Like, I'm really just hoping that Baker Mayfield comes in and he just plays not like he did last year, but like he did at least the year prior when he went to the playoffs. I'm not even expecting playoffs, but I am expecting better quarterback play than what Sam Darnold did last year. My hope is Sam Darnold doesn't see the field at all. I don't want him. I think I've seen enough. I think I'm good. But the offensive weapons that he has to throw the ball to, DJ Moore has underachieved. Even though he re-signed he got a good contract extension, he's underachieved. Now that could be because of the quarterback play, that could be because of the offense, that could be because of the head coach, the offensive coordinator, whatever you want to call it. It's something there, and DJ Moore just hasn't, compared to a guy like Terry McLaurin, AJ Brown. Like, these guys have produced, even though I think they came in like a year after him, but DJ Moore just hasn't done anything at all. I think his most touchdowns is 4 in a season. So that's just unacceptable to be the number one guy. I do like Robbie Anderson. He's got to have to deal with no thing that he said about Baker Mayfield. I think they kind of got past that right now. So we'll see what happens when the season starts. I thought it was going to work with him last year because he was when he was with Sam Darnold in New Jersey, or in New York, they had a good rapport. Like, he had his best season with Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold comes to Carolina, and it's just like he doesn't even know who he is. So I'm hoping that gets rectified with a better quarterback. The running backs, Christian McCaffrey, I don't even know anymore. He just can't stay healthy. So I'm hoping that he can do something this year that kind of puts everybody's mind at ease, especially Panthers fans, even fantasy fans, because he has talent, obviously, but he just can't stay healthy. So we'll see what happens this year. I do like Foreman coming in as the second or third back between him and Hubbard. Hubbard, he despite him having like 600 yards of rushing last year, he was very inefficient. He only averaged like 3.5 yards per carry. So that's got to get better. I think Foreman coming in can definitely help him out, especially with him coming in last year for Derrick Henry. So the tight ends are all garbage. Tommy Tremble is just not a pass catcher. Ian Thomas sucks. Offensive line should be a lot better. I like the left tackle out of NC State. I wish they would have taken Neal out of Alabama. Pat Eflin, he's probably going to start because Bradley Bozeman's hurt. Bozeman might miss a couple of weeks. So, but I think when Bozeman comes back, he'll be started in the center spot. Corbett, I think he brings that championship experience that he had with the Rams last year. Taylor Moton, to me, is one of the better tackles in football, or at least on the right tackle. The left guard is just up for debate right now. Right now, they're talking about Brady Christensen, which is fine, but he got drafted as a left tackle, so he's going to play out of position. Whatever. As long as the offensive line should be a lot better than it was last year, because last year it was just horrible. Actually, the last couple of years has been horrible. Just thinking about it. The defensive side, they have some young guys. They have some young talent. Hassan Reddick's not there anymore. Daquan Jones is not there. Like, some guys are just not there anymore, which is unfortunate. But they bring in Yatir Gross-Matos, who should be stepping up into that new role, I guess, of being a pass rusher, an edge rusher. Maybe he'll step into it like he should have last year, but Hassan Reddick came in and stole the show. So obviously they got Brian Burns on the other side. Derek Brown just hasn't lived up to a top 6 pick that he got drafted at all. He's going to have to do something. I like Matt Ioannidis. He brings that veteran leadership. Played with Washington, obviously, so he should be a better. Well, he's taking over for Jones basically, but he should be coming there and have that veteran leadership that they need. Shaq Thompson is a good linebacker. He's no Luke Kuechly, but he's there. They wanted him to take over for Luke, but he hasn't really. He can't be Luke, but he can try to step up and be the next best thing, I guess. I do like the signing of Corey Littleton, bringing extra depth to that linebacker spot. Damian Wilson and Frank Louvu, I can't remember how to spell it. He's these guys, man. These other two guys, they need to put Corey Littleton in. Last time I heard, Corey Littleton wasn't a starter, but we'll see what happens. Hoping that he can step up. If he can't step up and beat Damian Wilson and Frank Louvu out, come on. What are you there for at this point? The cornerbacks, J.C. Horn, you know what? I'm not even high on him. I wasn't high on him when he got drafted. I thought Patrick Surtain, they could have taken Slater or whatever it is, but now that they got Horn, he didn't really play a lot last year. But when he did play, he wasn't effective. Like he just, I don't know, man. He just wasn't, to me, he wasn't worthy of a top 10 pick. C.J. Henderson, they traded for him. He didn't do much either last year. I'm hoping between him and Horn, one of those two guys can come in and step up and be the other starting cornerback on the opposite side of Dante Jackson. Jackson, I kind of understand why they re-signed him versus Gilmore, because he's younger. You're going to get probably a few more years out of him, but obviously Gilmore's the better. So, you go with the better cornerback, or you go with the younger cornerback who can probably develop into a better cornerback later on in life. Who knows? I'm kind of high on Jackson, mediocre on Jackson, I guess I should say. Not really high on him, but I do have high expectations. But as far as his play, it's been mediocre. I like the signing of Xavier Woods, who had probably his best season last year. Jeremy Chin, to me, had a quiet second year compared to his first, where I think he was between him and Chase Young were like the top 2 defensive players in the NFL for rookies. He had kind of a quiet year last year, so I expect him to be better. I did like the signing of they finally got a decent punter in Johnny Hecker from the Rams. So that should be something that they can probably bank on, at least for getting punts into the 20. The punter they had last year, I can't remember his name. He was so bad. But, I overall, I think the defense should be – I don't think they're going to be a top 2 defense like they were last year. Maybe they can shoot for maybe like a top 10. I think the loss of Reddick is going to really affect this defense. And having to replace him with a guy like Yatir Gross-Matos, who hopefully is ready to take that step. But obviously on the offensive side, man, it's Baker Mayfield and Christian McCaffrey or bust pretty much. I hate to see Baker Mayfield go down and have to rely on Sam Darnold, especially if the team is winning games early in the season. This is their best bet, is to come out their first 4 games. They play the Browns at home, the Giants on the road, who they lost to last year, but they have a better quarterback. They had the Saints at home, who they beat last year, and they had the Cardinals at home without D-Hop. After that, it gets tough. You're playing 5 of the next 6 games, or 5 of the next 4 of the next 5 games are against playoff teams from last year. So they got to start out hot. They can start out 3-1, hopefully 4-0. Either way, I think it's going to fall off eventually, and they're going to finish at best 7-10. But I got them at 6-11.
Damn. All right, Mo. 6-11.
I mean, maybe they can finish. It's some tough games in there. Like after you get past the Cardinals game, you got 49ers at the Rams, Bucks, Falcons, Bengals. It's just not going to be easy.
Yeah. You said Bengals too?
Mm-hmm. They play the AFC North and they play the NFC West. Ooh. Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, they do play NFC West.
NFC West and
NFC West and AFC North.
Yeah, those are two tough divisions.
Yeah, I know, right?
Damn, man.
Plus they played the Broncos in the crossover game.
Oh, that's correct.
So
What? Hold on. Before you go, Mo, when do you play the Broncos? What time in the season?
Week 12. So that's around.
Y'all gonna get beat too.
It's at home. It's in Carolina, but still.
That's the time the offense is probably gonna be clicking.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, probably.
That's a deal. Yeah, that's a deal.
As a loss anyway. So
yeah. All right, Mo. Carolina Panthers.
Go ahead, Bruce. Matt Rule. Go ahead, Bruce. He lamed up. I mean, it's just a matter of when, then if. I wouldn't even be surprised if things go south if he's gone during the season. I wouldn't be surprised. And then they'll like Craig said, I think Craig said it, they'll turn it over to McAdoo just to finish the season probably and let McAdoo finish it. But that'd be a crazy show. But Baker, honestly, I wish him well. Like honestly, I wish Baker well. I think how that went down in Cleveland was totally bad. I don't know what kind of reports was out there or whatever, but I think he had the rub for what was known beforehand and what was out there. For you to give Deshaun Watson that kind of money and bring him in there, Baker, either you just gave up on Baker or Baker rubbed somebody in that locker room, ownership or whatever, the wrong way, because that just didn't sit well with me how that was done. And you know what I'm saying? Unless Baker did something that we don't know about that wasn't out there, it's like for you to make them kind of moves, knowing that there was going to be some discipline head down. Because unless you just totally idiot, you knew something was going to go down with Sean Watson, and you still gave him that kind of money. You basically told Baker, like, we don't want you. Like, you're not no good for us. Bye. So I wish to do well. I think he's going to be fired up. I want him to bring that old Oklahoma swag. I want him to bring that Oklahoma swag to Carolina. Christian McCaffrey got to stay healthy. I mean, I think him staying healthy, Hubbard is a solid number 2. I think that's going to open up stuff for DJ and them. Then that's going to open up them. I can see Carolina scaring some people offensively. If Christian McCaffrey can stay healthy and Baker plays solid and doesn't turn the ball over, I can see them really being exciting offensively. I'm not saying 35 points a game, but I can see them giving people some fits, like how you want to defend them. DJ Moore definitely has to step up. You got paid now. Let's see what you can do. I like Anderson, and then we need to see Terrence Marshall. I mean, we saw him at LSU, but wasn't he part of that trio that was on the national championship team with Joe Burrow and them? He was one of the receivers on that team, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean,
Terrence Marshall, yeah. LSU, yes.
Let's see what we can do. Offensive line, let's see, up and down on that one. Defensively, it's all on Ioannidis and Brown. If Derek Brown and Ioannidis can come to the party, it's definitely going to open up for Montos and for Burns, because Burns had double digits last year, didn't he? I know Burns was killing it, especially towards the end of the season. He got hot. So I mean, if you get that interior play going, and then also Burns going to get a lot of attention. He's going to get a lot of attention in the beginning. So Montos is going to come up and play, and then if Brown and Ioannidis play hard in the inside, he can open some stuff up, man. Really can open some stuff up for them. So I'm hoping that can help them. I'm hoping that can go, for them. If the secondary, that's kind of a mystery. I mean, I like the dude Chin. I like Xavier Woods. Corner situation, let's see how that goes. With that, if JC Horn can step up in year 2 and ball out, let's see how that goes. Carolina kind of tough. Like, it's a kind of a tough look. I got to give an in-between on this one. I can't give a solid number, but I'm going to go anywhere between, I wouldn't be shocked with anywhere for them in between 7 and 9 wins. I think they're going to be in between that 7 and 9 win total. I can see 7, but I wouldn't be shocked at 8 or 9. Especially if everybody stay healthy. Like, I wouldn't be shocked. Like, I wouldn't be like, wow.
All right. Carolina Panthers head coach Matt Rule. I think Craig said it best. So, sometimes we wonder when some teams get new owners. So some teams get new owners, and we see it go in a good way, right? Some teams get new owners, and you see it go in a bad way, right? Like, for instance, Matt Rule getting a huge contract from college. That wasn't the right decision. And matter of fact, he's only won 10. He's 10-23 in his first 2 years as a head coach. And it's not going to get much better from here. And just questionable, like firing. I didn't understand firing the offensive coordinator. It just didn't make sense to me. Hiring Will McAdoo doesn't make any sense to me either. Didn't think he was a good offensive coordinator or a good head coach. But when you don't make good decisions, sometimes you just don't make good decisions as a whole. You just make bad decisions across the board, and it affects people. So sometimes you're just winging it, like, oh yeah, just do this, and do this, and that's not when you're an NFL head coach. College, yeah, sure, you can get away with that. Not NFL. And it's funny. Shout out to Colin Cowherd. He says this: NFL players, when they're driving to the stadium on Sunday, and they know they're gonna lose, it sucks. Like, you know how some teams, like if you play for the Ravens or you play for Kansas City, you drive into that stadium, even the Colts, you're like, you know what? We got a good chance to win. You're hopeful. Every Sunday you're hopeful, right? If you don't like the Carolina Panthers or the Giants, you're like, are we gonna win today? Probably not. And then that I just think that's how Carolina Panthers is going to look into it. The quarterback, Baker Mayfield. I'm up and down on Baker. I think he has a good shot to. I mean, this is a good audition. I think this is a good place for him to go. I just don't like it. The head coach. I think they're going to fire the head coach, and I don't know if they're going to draft a quarterback. I don't know if they're going to keep Baker. But the good thing is, if he balls out this year, either they're going to bring him back or he'll go to another place and play. So that's the good thing of him getting an opportunity. Not even if he doesn't like ball out, but if he throws 20, if he has a year like Carson Wentz had last year and Carolina doesn't go, he'll probably get another job somewhere. That's probably going to happen, right? So that's good for him, and he won a job quicker than I thought he was going to. They said he picked up the playbook quick. Baker's highly intelligent. So he came in, understood the playbook, got it, and balled out in camp. Christian McCaffrey, these running backs are so, like, their shelf life is crazy. Like, their NFL shelf life is like 3 years, and you're done. Which, shout out to running backs that played like 6 or 7 years, because this is getting, hopefully he's able to stay healthy. Hopefully. The receivers, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, they're pretty good. I like DJ Moore. I think that he could be a better receiver. And I like Robbie Anderson more. I feel like Baker Mayfield and Robbie Anderson are going to connect more than people think they are. And like Mo said, Terrence Marshall Jr., I thought was going to have a great year, but he hasn't been able to put it together. So let's see if he can, really put it together with Baker Mayfield. Hope he does, because that's a great receiving core. The tight end, as Craig said, he's more of a blocking tight end. And in today's NFL, you want more of a pass catching tight end. I do like their pick out of NC State. I think he's a great left tackle. And they are thinking about moving Brady Christensen inside to left guard. So, I mean, that's like the thing nowadays. So if they do, Brady Christensen will probably fit really well there. So their offensive line is decent. I wouldn't call it the best, but it's better than last year, I think. Their defense, Brian Burns, awesome talent, but like Mo said, they need pressure from the inside. So let's hope Matt Leonidas, who I really like because he's coming from the Commanders, he's great on the inside and he gets his chance to start, which is well deserving. And if Derek Brown can turn the corner and you get that inside pressure, that's going to free up Brian Barnes and Gross Matos, who I guess shows flashes, but is not consistent. You got Shaq Thompson, quality veteran linebacker, who's great as a will linebacker on the outside. But the other linebackers, they gotta prove it. They gotta make a name for themselves. The corners, they did go with Dante Jackson. They did say CJ Henderson is balling in camp, so hopefully he's a good corner. And JC Horn is out with a foot injury. Let's see if he can stay healthy. And then their safeties are good. But do you have good safeties, but you don't have a good front seven? The safety is going to get a lot of tackles. That's not good. The linebackers and front seven should be doing most of the work, not the back end. So I agree with Craig. I wish they had a different head coach. I don't think he knows what he's doing, and it shows. And he might get fired in the season. He might be one of the first coaches fired. I'm thinking about it now. He might be, Greg. I'm sorry to say this, but
I'm sorry. I want him to go.
He might be like, oh, after the Panthers are 2-6, Matt Rule's fired. Like we might see him. If he's not fired during the season, he's going to be fired right after. But I got the Panthers going. Maybe 6-11. Yeah. All right, Corey. Man, this NFC South's supposed to be quick. Okay.
Yeah, I'll be brief.
Yeah.
Look, I think the most interesting thing about the Carolina Panthers this season is Baker Mayfield's situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's got a defense that, as you guys kind of touched on, I don't know how good it's going to be. They're counting on some guys stepping up. We'll see if it happens, but it could be in a defense that, asks the offense to score a lot of points. And I think Baker's that offense has a better offensive line. They've got some decent skill position talent. And if, everyone can stay healthy, they could put up points. So I think Baker is in a situation where he could excel on the field himself. But I agree that the thing that could undermine it all is Matt Rule. I would agree with Mo's comment that he's probably a lame duck coach. I don't think he's retained. Whether or not, as I said, if it happens during the season or after remains to be seen. But it does feel like he may be in a bit over his head, and I don't know if it's the case, but I kind of get a little bit of a sense that he may be starting to lose the locker room. And when that happens, it's game over. There's no winning it back. Yeah. But I think they have enough talent to win some games, especially being in the NFC. I think they could hit 8 wins on the season. But I don't see them as being a playoff team. But I am really intrigued to watch them play and see how Baker Mayfield plays.
Mm. All right, Mo, who you got next?
You know what? I'll do y'all a service, and I'll take Atlanta so I can leave y'all New Orleans and Tampa. I'll take.
Atlanta's gonna be real quick for me, bro.
Head coach, Arthur Smith. I get it, but year 2, I think it's gonna be tough now with him because you bring in Mariota, who's not necessarily the biggest of household names. You draft Ritter, but I think let's see how that goes. I love the Drake London pick. I think he's going to do well. I think he's going to do well. Of course, you you got the beast Kyle Pitts out there. They had the other dude, but he got into the gambling thing, so he's out.
Yeah.
So that's definitely going to be a issue, and it's going to be tough for them this year. That's going to be an issue for them. I think they might be the 3rd worst team in the NFL. Honestly, looking at it, I wouldn't be surprised if Ritter's thrown out there by week 6. Or as things go bad, I would. That's just me. I would put Ritter out there. As it go bad, you got to see what you're going to do, because guess what? What if they decide to fire the coach and the coach says, "Oh well, I'm gonna get my own guy."
Yeah.
Now you looking at, because looking at their schedule now, putting up their schedule, it's brutal. Like they start the season with New Orleans, the Rams. Okay, they might get Seattle, but I can honestly see them starting. Lord have mercy. I can honestly see them starting like 1-6. Like looking at their schedule right now, it's real terrible. Like they got the Bengals early, they got San Fran early, they got Tampa early, the Browns thrown in there October 2nd. Like, you start your season with New Orleans and the Rams back to back.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just gonna be trouble for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't see them doing too much there. This roster really not that good. You got young dudes, you have a lot of young people you brought in, but overall roster is not exciting for what you think is going to get you wins in the NFL. So overall, I want Ritter to play. I want him to do well. And I think honestly he's going to play early. But I think I would say, offensive line not good. Running back right now are they still using Cordell Patterson as the back?
Yeah.
Lord have mercy. He did, but for real, he did all you could do. For what you asked him to do, what more can you ask that man to do? Like you asking that man to be everywhere. Because honestly, last year we shouldn't have beat him. That we got a fluke play last year on a running back scramble play.
Yeah.
At the end of the game to beat them. Like man, 4, 5, 6, 4 wins. Maybe 4 wins. One play I do love for them is AJ Terrell. I love AJ Terrell out of Clemson. I think he's done well. He's played solid. Deion Jones. They did get Rashad Evans. I don't like anything else really about them. 2 solid offensive linemen and Chris Lindsey and Jake Matthews. Outside of Drake London, where's your production coming at the wide receiver position? Like, where is it coming back? Like, I don't see it. So overall, I'm gonna say Atlanta. I'm gonna say 4-13.
All right, Atlanta Falcons. Arthur Smith is coming back. I think he is a head coach with a decimated roster, so I don't even know if I would give him a grade because, good luck. I don't think he's going to lose his job or be in a hot seat. But this roster is, to be honest, I'm gonna tell you how they're gonna finish and where I think they're going at the end. But it's not many wins. I think Mo is being generous, by the way. Marcus Mariota is your starting quarterback. Number one, he never stays healthy in a full year. Number two, Desmond Ritter, I think he's okay. We'll see. I like him as one of being the best quarterbacks coming out. You know, they're talking about they're having Felipe Franks as a tight end. All right, and they got Cordell Patterson as their main running back. That says enough. I would. He did okay last year, but I'm not holding it up to him. Drake London is really good. I think he's, number one receiver. They'll get Calvin Ridley. They'll be back next year. Kyle Pitts is good. He's really good tight end. They got a solid offensive line. That's pretty good. Their defense, the only person I like Grady Jarrett. Great defensive tackle. You got Deion Jones and Rashawn Evans. Rashawn Evans is okay. So is Lorenzo Carter. They're decent. AJ Terrell is a standout. He's really good. They say Richie Grant is holding it down in a free safety spot in training camp. And you got the vet Casey Howard. So at the end of the day, the Atlanta Falcons know they're in rebuilding mode. They know they're rebuilding. So, at the end of the day, next year when they have Bryce Young, they'll have Calvin Ridley back and Drake London and Kyle Pitts and a better offensive line. But, I can see them probably having the number one pick in the draft, and they'll be going 2-15. Go ahead, Corey.
Look, I don't see much reason to spend a lot of time on the Falcons. I'm with you there. They brought in a backup quarterback to start because they had no options. Eventually you have to sit Marcus Mariota and throw Desmond Ritter out there. He was intriguing at Cincinnati. It's a wasted season. Throw him out there, see what you got. I don't think they're going to be good. You're competing for the top pick anyway, so it's not going to hurt anything. I do also have to agree with Joe when talking to him the other day in the fact that they're a bad team that's also going to be really hard to root for at any given point during the season after trying to make a run at Deshaun Watson. Yep. So it's good luck when picking games. I had him at 1-16, and anything more than 4 wins would legitimately shock me. I don't think the head coach is at any risk of getting fired, or he shouldn't be, because the roster turning into a dumpster fire is absolutely not his fault, and I don't think that falls on him. And I think it's a situation where if he gets fired, he would get an OC job immediately and potentially get looked at as immediate head coach again, just because it's that offense last year far surpassed expectations for the talent that roster had. So they're going to be bad, but hey, thanks for Matt Ryan, guys.
Yeah. All right, Greg, what you got the Falcons?
They don't really. I mean, their coach is the second year. I thought for last year, he did a pretty solid job. They went 7-10, something like that. But I mean, obviously they had Matt Ryan. But man, this year, besides Cordell Patterson, who's like an aging running back / wide receiver, kind of out of position. He does a bunch of different things. I just don't know what's going to happen with this offense. I like Kyle Pitts, and I think last year when they drafted him, they had him in mind to me as being paired with Calvin Ridley, but obviously Calvin Ridley's not there this year. So this year they went out and got him Drake London instead. So I do like Drake London. I do like Kyle Pitts, but that's pretty much where it stops at. Cordell Patterson, I think, can be decent. I think he can get you about 500 yards rushing, maybe 500 yards receiving, which I think is a pretty good season for a guy that can do pretty much everything. And they don't really have anybody besides him at running back or whatever you want to call him. Russell Gage, I think, is going to be missed because outside of Drake London, there's nobody else to throw the ball to. Besides just talking about Kyle Pitts and Drake London, like there's really nothing else to talk about with this team. There's nothing there. I just don't see it. So I had him at 3-14, but I think I gave him one extra win. I don't even know why, but I'm taking that one back and I'm going 2-15.
All right. So I'm gonna do the New Orleans Saints. So the New Orleans Saints, Dennis Allen's first year head coach, but he was defensive coordinator last year. He was in the building. The players know him. He's familiar with everybody. And their defense is really good in spots last year, especially against Tom Brady. But he just fits it, He fits what they're about. So the quarterback, Jameis Winston. Listen, I think they're a playoff team if he doesn't get hurt. And I really like what he's doing. And I think that if he's healthy, once again, this team is really built. And I think that he's going to have a decent year. I really like Jameis. I think that going to New Orleans was the best thing for his career, and he learned behind Drew Brees and Sean Payton. Running back Alvin Kamara, they say I know he's dealing with some off-field issues. But on the field, he is in incredible shape, and they said they look like he wants to bounce back this year. And then they got Mark Ingram II back there to be his relief, which I think they fit perfect together. Michael Thomas has been doing great at camp, which is a great sign because I like Michael Thomas as a player, and it's good to see him finally healthy. I mean, their receiving core is lit. You're talking about Marquise Callaway and Traquan Smith are the fourth and fifth guys. You have Jarvis Landry and Chris Olave starting, and Chris Olave has been phenomenal at camp so far. Tight end, they got Taysom Hill, which I think he's going to be used as a weapon. And to be honest, I really kind of like them using him correctly. Taysom Hill is like the definition of an athlete, like a baller. Like he could be quarterback, he could play special teams, he could be a tight end, and he's just a weapon, and I think he's gonna be great this year. And and I guess he already kind of got paid. So their left tackle, I do like their first round pick, Trevor Olave was, but they got Trevor Penning, who I think is going to be a great addition. Left tackles, camp has been, so he's gotten kicked out, being rough a couple of times. I like that though, especially for the NFL. I like that tenacity. I think it sets the tone. They got Andreas Pete, Ryan Razmick. I think he's back again. They just gotta, once again, they're a quality built franchise with a good offensive line. Their defense, they're back again. Once again, they got Cameron Jordan, who I like Cameron Jordan. I think not only is he a good professional, but he's a great guy off the field, and he's one of those guys that's kind of been steady all pro, He's been the focal point of leading the defense. I also like Marcus Davenport. I want to see if he can put it all together. He was a high pick, and this is the time to kind of step into your own light. You got the veteran leadership. Linebacker Demario Davis, once again, wonderful middle linebacker. He's going to hold down the middle. He's one of those linebackers that can go sideline to sideline that fit today's NFL. And the corners, you got, they got they got Bradley Roby, right? He's probably gonna play the slot. He's perfect. They got CJ Garner. Their safeties are they got Marcus May and Tyrann Mathieu. And then you have Marshawn Lattimore on the other side. So their defense is good. I think they give Tom Brady fits. Once again, they beat Aaron Rodgers last year. So I think, to be honest, I think this is going to be one of those teams. If Jameis Wilson stays healthy, I can see the New Orleans Saints making the playoffs. And I got them going 10-7. All right. Corey?
Yeah, when it comes to New Orleans Saints, head coach Dennis Allen has been in New Orleans for a long time. I believe it was 2011 that he joined the team.
Yeah,
so he was just. I know. I feel like they interviewed a lot of people for the job, but he was the logical choice to replace Sean Payton when he kind of abruptly left. He's not a first-time head coach. But honestly, looking at his tenure in Oakland from 20, I guess was it 2011?
It was 2012 to 2014.
Yes, 12 to 14. He was in Oakland, but he was kind of set up for failure. The Raiders were a mess at that point. The roster, bad cap situation, not a great roster, and so it was a bit of a train wreck. But I don't necessarily put that on Allen. I don't know that anybody would have succeeded as the head coach at that time. But we'll see what the loss of Sean Payton does end up meaning for this franchise, though, because Payton was a great head coach, a great offensive mind. Pete Carmichael has been with the team for a long time as well, but he's also not really called plays. So it'll be interesting to see just how impactful the loss of Sean Payton is for this team. Offensively, it does look like Alvin Kamara is going to avoid any punishment and a suspension for his incident at the Pro Bowl last year. So that is a kind of big deal for them. Jameis looked really good last year before he got hurt. Personally, I hope he can stay healthy because I really want to see what he can do in New Orleans in a full season. Again, that kind of comes back to the Sean Payton loss, though, because how much of that progression in Jameis Winston's game was Sean Payton and how much of it was just being in a system that kind of tailored to Jameis better. We'll see. There's no shortage of weapons. So the wide receiver room is, as you mentioned, James, just crazy. Michael Thomas is back, looks good, which has honestly surprised me with just the mess that was going on and how rocky stuff seemed to be with him in the franchise. And then they go out and add Jarvis Landry and Chris Olave. It's guys that they were counting on for meaningful snaps last year at wide receiver are their fourth and fifth options now. And that level of depth is crazy. They have a really good offensive line. They've got a number of guys back in, Reeves, Ramczyk, Pete, and everything. And I'm excited to watch that offense. I really want to see what it can do. They have the talent. It's just going to come down to the play calling. Defensively, they had a good defense last year. I thought that they might struggle a little bit because they did have to cut some of their depth to get under the cap because they were in salary cap hell. But their defense played really well last year. And then they went out and added Marcus May and Honey Badger in the back end, which is just adding an insane amount of talent at safety. As you mentioned, they already had Marcus Lattimore. I really liked Paulson Adebo coming out of Stanford last year, and now he's lining up opposite of Lattimore. Honestly, with this defense, as long as they can stay healthy, I think there's a pretty good potential that the offense could kind of struggle out of the gate as they just get used to the flow, because just Jameis missed a lot of time last year. You have a new play caller. It may take some time to kind of find their footing and get into a flow, but this defense is good enough to help carry the weight for them during that time. So overall, I know I've said it a few times now, but the loss of Sean Payton, I don't think can be overstated. It's a major adjustment for the franchise, but kudos to this front office for loading up that roster and putting this team in a really good position to keep winning. A lot of their success is going to fall on the shoulders of Carmichael and Winston. As I said, I'm really intrigued to watch them this season. I think they're going to be a really fun team to watch. And picking games, I think they can go 11-6, and I fully expect the Saints to be a playoff team this year.
Yeah. All right, Craig.
Okay. All right. So the head coach, Dennis Allen, he's been there with the team for a while now on the defensive side. So him taking over kind of makes sense. He knows the players. He knows that locker room. And then he's taking over a team that can make the playoffs. It's not like rebuild or anything like that. So I fully expect the Saints to be contending for a playoff spot in a weak NFC. Last year, they looked like they were going in that direction until Jameis got hurt. And before he got hurt, he wasn't having that 30-30 type season. So he was having a really good year. And who knows what could have happened if he didn't get hurt. So I kind of expect him to come back this season and have a similar type of season. And last year, he was doing it without any type of wide receivers. This year, he brings in Chris Olave. You guys already pretty much mentioned everything. Olave, Landry, and getting Michael Thomas back, who hasn't played since 2020. So the last time he played, Drew Brees was the quarterback. So we'll have to see what happens now that he doesn't have Drew Brees there. But I assume that with everything going on in camp, from what I've been hearing, he's having a really good camp. So he looks really good, like nothing ever happened. So I just assume that it's going to be like second nature between him and Jameis once the season actually starts. Alvin Kamara, I think he's one of the best overall backs as far as running and catching. If he can stay healthy, and I don't think there's going to be any issues with the suspension supposedly happening this year. I think they're going to probably postpone it until at least maybe next year, at least looking at it. Everything kind of got postponed. So that's good for him. So I kind of expect him to take advantage of this and have a really good season. If he does get hurt, I think Ingram, who's been around the league for a while, he played with the Saints a long time ago. He's back. He can come in and be a spell back for Alvin Kamara as well. The tight end's probably the weakest part of this team. Trotman and Taysom Hill is now playing tight end. Are your two guys there? The offensive line, I think Ramczyk is a really good right tackle. I think the loss of Armstead could hurt this offensive unit. He's one of the best left tackles in the NFL. So I expect that to maybe be an issue early on, but I think eventually once the season goes on, they'll get more comfortable with each other, and you'll see a better offensive line play from everybody overall. The defensive side defensive side is loaded again. Saints have usually always had a really good defense anyway, so I didn't expect anything different. Cameron Jordan is one of the best edge rushers in the league. Marcus Davenport as well. So they have really good edge rushers. I like Demario Davis. He doesn't get a lot of praise, I don't think. But if any group of this defense is weak, it is the linebackers. But they're solid linebackers. Obviously, when you look at the secondary, Malcolm Jenkins, who's been in the league for what seems like ever, he retired. Marcus Williams is now on the Ravens. So they lost those two guys, and then they replaced those two guys with the Honey Badger and Marcus May. So, it just doesn't stop for this unit. Doesn't stop for this team. Marcus Lattimore, one of the better cornerbacks in my opinion in the league. Has been somebody the Panthers has had to deal with for a while, so he's still there. The Saints have always, at least for the last 5, 6, 7 years, have always really had a really good defense. So I kind of expect that to keep happening again this year. I think their defense is going to be probably top 5. Like I said, I expect them to compete for a playoff spot. I think if Jameis Winston can come out and play like he did last year before he got hurt, that's definitely a big plus. And I definitely think they can. I think he's going to have a really good season if he can stay healthy. So, we all know what the defense can do, and it's pretty much between Jameis Winston and I'm going to say Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas plays like he did 2019, 2018. Then this could be a really good, fun group to watch. I am kind of excited to see, even though I'm not a Saints fan, I can't stand him. I am kind of excited to see what Jameis can do, fully healthy in a full season with this group of receivers. I got the Saints at 10-7. 10-7.
All right, Mo. The Saints.
Coach Dennis Allen. I mean, I think it was, I don't want to say a no-brainer, but I think when you had Sean Payton make the decision like he did, I think you had to hire within. It would have been a rough transition to hire somebody new. With that being said, I think this offense, if healthy and everybody's good, and if, Michael Thomas is what we've been saying in camp and looking like he's looking, it's scary. Like, the things they can do with this offense is real scary, because you could even keep Kamara on the field and then have Ingram back there in the backfield. You can go empty with the other wide receivers. You talk about solid receivers who are the 4th and 5th option. A solid offensive line. When I'm looking at right now, they got Trevor Penning, which I think was a first-round draft pick. Wasn't he their second first-round draft pick? I think right now they got him second on the depth chart. That's crazy. That's scary. So solid offensive line, solid running game. Jameis Winston, honestly, it's going to be on Jameis Winston. If Jameis Winston plays like he did before he got hurt last year, they could push for this division. I think they could push for a division title. They're that talented offensively, that talented defensively. Up front, Davenport is keep getting better and better. We know what you're going to get from Cam Jordan. Defensive tackles are solid. Linebacker play is a little bit of a question. Secondary, oh my goodness. Like, you bringing up Marcus May from the Jets, and then, Honey Badger, and then you got Lattimore. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy, because even with the secondary, you got first, second round picks who are not bums as backups. Bradley Roby ain't sorry. CJ Gardner-Johnson not sorry. PJ Williams not sorry. You got dudes who are solid players as backups. Like, it's just a wealth of witches. So I see them. I honestly, and I know y'all gonna laugh like Mo treacherous what I'm about to say. Y'all know my quote. If the Saints are healthy, and I know it's a lot of ifs here, and I'm gonna give 2 ifs. If the Saints are healthy and Jameis Winston plays well and they don't make the playoffs, I
there you go, Mo. Come on, Mo.
I'm sorry. The NFC is not that good.
Man.
Like Craig said, the NFC is not that good.
For time, man.
Now, let me say this. The NFC is not that good for this team not to make the playoffs. Especially when you add another team, 7 teams can go? I don't see 7 teams better than the Saints right now. Like, on paper, when you touch the field, they touch the field fully healthy. I can't say 7 teams right now in the NFC that's better than them. Fully healthy. I just can't. I can't run them off. Maybe 3 or 4, but I can't name 7 off head that I can jump out there and say are better than the Saints right now, fully healthy, touching the field healthy. Like, it's hard to do.
Oh, no. All right. So, Corey got the last one. It's your favorite quarterback.
Yeah, right?
Stop.
All right. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Head coach Todd Bowles Look, he's a guy that's well respected around the league, well respected by the team. I do think the circumstances of him taking over were kind of bizarre. You have Brady's retirement, sudden change of mind. Bruce Arians' sudden retirement after reports of friction between Brady and Arians.
Mhm.
Who knows if Brady had anything to do with Arians being gone?
Yeah.
Arians has long been a Todd Bowles guy, so it also wouldn't surprise me if Arians was ready to step aside a bit, but wanted to do it that late to make sure Todd Bowles was the guy. But personally, I'm glad to see him get another chance. I thought he did a decent job with the Jets, given the situation he was in with the Jets. And I think he is more than deserving of another head coaching opportunity. Offensively, I think the loss of Gronk is going to hurt him. We'll see what Julio Jones can do. He didn't really do much of anything in Tennessee last year. I know the Bucs will be asking less of Julio than what Tennessee was. The Titans needed him to be a contributing number 2 wide receiver.
Yeah.
The Bucs need him to be the number 3 wide receiver, maybe like the 4th option on the offense as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a scaled back role will maybe help Julio stay healthier and contribute in that offense. I will say the injuries to the offensive line are a bit concerning that have already happened in camp so far. Losing Jensen, Wirfs got hurt. I saw somebody else, Stenny got put on IR. Like it's when you have a 40-something-year-old quarterback that can't move at all, having your starting offensive line start going down in training camp is very concerning because it's really hard to find quality guys at this point in a season. I think the Bucs could be in a position where they're going to be scouring the waiver wire come cut down day to bring in some offensive linemen.
Yeah, I can see
that. I will say I don't think their skill talent is quite as deep as it's been the last few years. But there's going to be more on Tom Brady's plate. I think they're going to have to ask more of him because that offense, both the skill talent and the offensive line. The offensive line was one of the best in football, and their skill position talent was some of the best in the NFL. The year they won the Super Bowl, their skill talent was, I would argue, one of the best all-around units ever. I mean, they were that good.
Yeah.
We'll see how Godwin bounces back, but you still got Mike Evans. You still have a lot of talent there. I think the offense will be fine. Defensively, again, their defense is loaded with talent as well. They've got guys across the board. They, again, are largely running it back from the last few years. But I think the Akeem Hicks signing could be a very underrated signing this offseason. Not sure how he lasted as long as he did in the offseason, but I think he can slide in and more than help replace Ndamukong Suh being gone.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, look, the Bucs are the front runners for this division. I think it could be closer than some expect because the Saints have historically given the Bucs some trouble. And I think that the Saints have a really talented roster as well. While I don't think the Bucs offense will be quite as talented as it's been the last couple of years, they're still in the NFC. They're still in the NFC South. So they've got the Falcons are going to be really bad. The Panthers, they've kind of owned. So I suspect that they won't have any problems getting into the playoffs. And the question will be, by the time the playoffs roll around, are they able to make a run? I will say, Brady's absence during camp has been kind of weird. Not sure what's going on there.
Spending time with family.
You can't. I get it. He's a well-respected quarterback in his
last
40s.
year, man. It's his last year, man.
But you can't just decide to go on a family vacation in the middle of training camp. Like, you unretired to play football. It's your job. Like, that's.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a really weird situation. The story of Brady going to the Dolphins, not really getting traction, is a really weird situation. The recent story of Brady lining it up to go to Oakland until Gruden backed out of the deal the fact that never got any traction is really weird. So I don't know. There does seem to be a little bit of stuff floating around this team other than football that I think they should be able to overcome it because the roster is really talented. But if things struggle a little bit, I mean, some of that stuff might take hold. But I don't really see the Bucs struggling this year when picking games. I had them at the top of the NFC, near the top of the NFC, and had them going 13-4.
Yeah. All right, Craig, Tampa Bay.
Okay. Not really much to say about this team, but Todd Bowles taking over for Bruce Arians. I don't know that whole situation or why. I don't know. It's kind of crazy what happened. So I think if Bruce Arians was capable of coaching again, and I mean, why didn't he just come back to lead this team again? I don't know. Maybe Tom Brady had something to do with it, or maybe him and Tom Brady just didn't get along, or I'm not sure, but it's kind of odd. But hopefully Todd Bowles can be as good of a coach as Bruce Arians was for this team. We'll see. Obviously Tom Brady, I'm not really going to go into detail. So moving on. The running backs though, Leonard Fournette, he can't. At one point, he was reported to be like 30 pounds overweight when he came into camp, and I think now he should be. Yeah, I think now he should be. I don't know. Maybe he's on that James Harden diet or something like that. But he should be good to go now. He re-signed in the offseason, so coming into camp at the weight he came in was just unacceptable. But now he's back. He's ready to go, and he should be on pace to have another really good season. He doesn't have Jones behind him anymore, so he is pretty much the main guy there. Obviously, we got Mike Evans, the number one wide receiver there. Russell Gage coming in. They also bringing in Julio Jones. Chris Godwin, not sure when he's going to be back. As far as being able to play with contact, he hasn't been able to participate in contact drills yet. So we'll see when he's able to come back. Hopefully it'll be soon. They're going to need him. Julio Jones, I'm not really expecting much out of Julio Jones. I just don't think he's that good anymore. I haven't thought he's good in years, honestly. So I think he's just there. He's just a guy that they can just probably get 30 catches this year, which may be good for him since he's older and he's getting to that point where he's about to retire eventually. But if you're Julio Jones, you've been like the top wide receiver for years. Like, it's not good enough, but it is what it is. The tight ends, man, I'm still not sold on Gronk not coming back. I can't. I think maybe at some point during the season he might return. But even still now you're dealing with Kyle Rudolph and Cameron Brate. They're okay. Even both of them combined don't make a Gronk. So we had to see. Tom Brady's record with Gronk in the lineup was just ridiculous. I think I can't remember what the record is, but it was ridiculously good. So we'll see what happens with that situation. The offensive line obviously has been beat up. Wirfs and Jensen. Like, Jensen's gone for the year. Tristan Wirfs probably should be back before the season starts. Maybe he's kind of day-to-day right now. So we'll see what happens with that. But the offensive line is just not going to be the same as it was last year, especially without Jensen. So not sure what they're going to have to deal with that. They also lost Alex Kappa, who went to the Bengals. So it's going to be rough coming back this year with that offensive line that they got. But on the defensive side, obviously the defense should be just as good. Corey mentioned Akeem Nicks signing that 1-year deal. He should be a beast basically on that defensive line. They did lose Sue and they did lose Pierre Paul, but getting a guy like Hakeem Hicks should be vital for this defensive unit. Vita Vea still there. The linebackers are probably the best linebacker core in the NFL with Devin White, Levante David, and Shaq Barrett. So that should be, man, that's going to be scary. There's the secondary. I like Carlton Davis and I like Antonio Winfield, and they went out and they got Logan Ryan, who's I don't even think is starting. So they definitely have depth there. They have Neal, who's not starting either. I don't believe. So I mean, they have depth, especially at safety. Carlton Davis and Sean Murphy Bunting, solid corners. So I just think that this Bucks team is definitely poised to make another run. I'm kind of there with Corey. Like, I don't understand the whole Tom Brady missing in action thing during the 3 weeks of training camp, missing game or missing time. Obviously, I don't think he's going to play much in the preseason anyway, but just not being there, especially with this group where you have Russell Gage coming in, you have new tight ends coming in, you have Julio Jones coming in. Like, I know Tom Brady's a professional. He's been in the league for years and years, but like, if this is your last year, like I kind of figure like you want to maybe be there a little bit more, helping these guys, getting a rapport with these guys, especially these newer guys. But it is what it is. He wasn't there. Now he's back. So we'll see what happens moving forward. But even still, I think the Bucks are one of the better teams in the NFC. I don't really expect them to take too many steps back, even with guys like Gronk not being there or Ndamukong Suh. I think I have the Bucks finishing 13-4, and I think they'll be tied with the Rams. But I think the head-to-head with the Rams is going to move the Rams above the Bucks. But 13-4.
Okay. Mo, Tampa Bay.
Todd Bowles, I love it. I'm glad he got another shot. We know what happened with the Jets and Arizona. But I'm glad he got another shot. Solid coach. I'm glad they kept Leftwich. I don't know if that's a kind of in the wings waiting type of situation, or did he really just feel like his outlooks wasn't good? He felt like I might as well just stay in Tampa.
I feel like Tom requested him back.
Yeah. Tom Brady, I mean, enough said. I honestly get what some people's stance has been about, he's the GOAT and all this other stuff. But like Craig just said, and I think Corey said it too, with all the new weapons coming in to give him that much of time off away from new weapons, it wasn't like you getting your full arsenal back. I think it was and you got almost a brand new offensive line. You lost 2-3 starters from the offensive line. I don't think that was a good look. I think Fournette and these backs are going to really be important. Wide receiver wise, it's talented. Look at the room; it's talented. I think Julio's going to be motivated. You got Godwin coming back off injury. Hopefully he'll be back full strength or somewhat. You got Russell Gage. You got Scotty Miller, who's been productive. Tyler Johnson. So offensive line, it looks kind of beat up. It is beat up. It is new. That defensive front is going to be just nasty. That front seven is going to be just something not to play with. And like Craig said, it's scary for the fact that Logan Ryan and Keanu Neal, I'm looking at now, are backups. We're talking about starters who've been starters in the league for years, and they're backups on this team. That's scary. Like you talking about now, they're not even, what I'm saying, they're second on depth charts. So, and it's not because they're not good either. It's not because they've diminished. It's because the people in front of them are that good. I've loved Winfield Jr. since he came out of college in Minnesota. I honestly think the defense is going to hold them down for a minute, and I think they might struggle a little bit. But I still see what Craig's saying. I'm cool with the 12 to 13 wins, but I can honestly see them, like, if you want to get them, you better get them within the first 5 to 6 weeks. Because, like, once they catch fire, it's going to be scary. Like, it's going to be like a lookout situation. Like, they're going to catch fire. And I think we all going to get on here one day for who you got or something. We're going to be like, there it is. There it is. When we talk about catching fire. Like, there it is. You know what I'm saying? So, honestly, I can see them 13, 12, 12-5, 13-4. But like Craig said, that head-to-head, they might lose to the Rams, so that would knock them out to the 2 seed. But I can honestly see Tampa being a 2 seed in the NFC. Like, honestly, I'm gonna say this. This is my bold prediction right quick. Whoever wins that NFC South is going to be the 2 seed in the NFC.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So Tampa Bay Bucks, we got Todd Bowles, Love him, respect him. Quick nugget if anybody wants to know. Todd Bowles did play for the Commanders back in the day. And when he had here's the crazy thing. When he was going to be head coach of the Jets, I wanted us to hire him so bad, but we didn't. I just like him as a coach. And this fits. Don't know what Bruce Arians. I mean, we know what it is. I don't even have to say it. What happened between Bruce Arians? We know what it is, guys. You don't have to keep saying we don't know. We know what happened. Okay. Tom Brady. This Tom Brady. He took 11 days. I feel like he made some obligations to spend time with his family, and he carried it. He let the team know, like, yeah, it's Tom Brady. I do agree with he should be there for his new weapons and especially his new offensive line. I think it's going to take some time. It's been a lot of injuries, but he'll be okay. Leonard Fournette, I think he's going to have a phenomenal year. Came back, got in shape quick. Enough said. Mike Evans, man, Mike Evans is like, I think he's had, ever since he's been in the NFL, he's had 1,000 yards every year and like over 70 receptions. He's like quietly really, really good. And he's been like that since he's came in the NFL, which is very hard to do. I know they're gonna miss Gronk. I don't think Gronk is coming back. I think Gronk is like, I am staying retired. I think he won the Super Bowl, came back last year, was like, I'm good, man. I do like Chris Godwin I think they should take their time with him because they do have Julio Jones. And Julio Jones isn't going to be the focal point like he was in Tennessee, which I think is a great thing. And then they have Russell Gage, who I think is a very underrated signing. So, I mean, this offense. And then they have Cameron Brake. And then they have Kyle Rudolph as a backup. So it's like, and once again, their offensive line, they've lost Hubbard, Jensen, Stenny, Wirfs is hurt. So they're hurt and they're new, but I think it is going to take some time for them to gel. But once again, you have Tom Brady, so he'll get things. They'll be on the same accord eventually. This defense, man, Akeem Hicks, Vita Vea, William Golston, like, golly, this front seven is a problem, man. Devin White, Levante Davis, Shaq Barrett, and they've been playing with each other, so they already know. And then Todd Bowles is now their head coach, who's a defensive coordinator, so they're like, okay, this is easy money, right? Then you got the safeties, Antoine Woodfield, and then Carlton Davis. I just like this team. I do agree with everybody when the defense is going to hold them down. Defense is going to hold them down. Offense is going to start off slow. And I got them going 13-4. But I do think this is Tom's last year. But I don't know. He might play till 50. But I don't see. I don't think he's never taken this much time in training camp off. And, I think he's going toward a different area in his life, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, he's the reason he's been so successful in his career. Well,
taking time off.
His luck, but
he'll take time off.
Yeah, he's committed to what he's 100% in,
yeah.
And outside of getting lucky on stuff, it's a lot of work. You put in, as we've talked before, order quarterbacks 100% of the time and say the physical part isn't the hard part. It's the putting in the work to get ready for game day. That's what makes it difficult going towards the end of the career. And if he's already wanting to kind of, step out, skip some of that stuff, I mean, as the season wears on, you get into weeks 14, 15, 16.
Yeah.
It seems kind of crazy to say, but it's like, does Brady want to, is he not as motivated to keep putting in that same level of work?
Yeah.
Because it seems kind of crazy that he's just going to up and go on a family vacation during training camp.
Yeah, that's why I said it's odd, and I keep saying I think it's going to be his last year because we don't see stuff like this from Brady.
I think that, and I think he sees the issues in the team he has. Like, I think maybe he sees it and, like, you know.
No,
maybe,
I don't think so. I think he has one of the best rosters. We just went over it.
now I'm talking about from an offensive standpoint. Maybe he sees what's going on. Like, maybe I want to take a break. We want to step.
I think he's want to retire.
I question I question the story that it was all pre-planned. Everyone was on board. Everyone was perfectly fine with it.
I think he left.
I would agree. I think he probably gave the team an ultimatum.
Todd Bowles is not a first-year head coach. But as a first-year head coach in that situation of how he was hired and stuff like that, I don't know if I'd be cool with my quarterback walking away like that.
There is no head coach in the NFL that's going to have their starting quarterback come to them and be like, "Hey, third week of or second week of the preseason, I'm just going to dip out for a week and a half." Hell no.
That's because his wife was like, it was already rumblings like, hey, and she, he was probably like, I gotta come back this last year. She was like, well, you promised the kids, you promised us, you promised Tom.
Talk to your head coach, tell him you will be gone for 11 days.
I don't think it was something where he came to him like, hey, is it okay if I'm going to be gone? And the team is just kind of forced to defend it because, of course, they're not going to throw Tom Brady.
That's even worse. Oh, no.
I think he just spent time with his family. I think
I get it. I get it. But honestly, because of the situation, I feel like it's worse if he dictated that than if it was already planned out. Like, all right, this date I'm leaving, I'm coming back. Like, I feel like if he walked in there and told them, like, listen, I'm gone for 11 days. Y'all got to deal with it.
What are you going to do, man? What are you going to do?
You're not going to do it. I understand you're not going to do nothing about it. I understand you can't do nothing about it, but in my opinion, I'm just saying I think it's worse in that situation if that happened than if it was planned out. Like before training camp started, he sat down with Bowles and said, "Look, this is what's going on with me."
I don't know, man. I just know that
I don't think that this is something that he talked to them ahead of time. I think it was last second. Hey, I'm about to step away for a while, and.
Yeah, I think
the team is then left in a position you either cover for Brady or you fine him for being absent.
Hey, I think it was,
you don't want to fine him because you're gonna lose the locker room's not gonna like that. So you gotta just
chalk
it up.